Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Hop in the car. We're heading to Panthers mini camp. That's right. The Carolina Panthers are out there doing work. Bryce Young is slinging around. We've got TMJ with the stickum on his hands looking good. Standout. And Brian Burns, the face of the Panthers, really has become the face of the Panthers. We've got all that plus more to talk about with the NFL tonight and how Frank Reich sees this team shaping up, as well as some small injuries to deal with. And again, the discussion is Jaycee Horn, injury prone. We talked a lot about it on the Friday free for all. So hop in the car. We're heading to mini camp. We appreciate you all on the C3 Panthers podcast. My name's Tony Dunn, and I'm rocking with my wheelman, Cody Lashney.
Tony Dunn, you already know there is nowhere I'd rather be on a Tuesday night than sitting here with my boys talking Panther football. Man, we always have a ton to talk about, too. Even in the dead of the offseason, when there's not shit going on, leave it to the C3 Panthers podcast. We will find a way to do a 4-hour show. Like it's not an issue at all, dude.
You should have seen it last week. You thought
I
guess we had a little bit more to talk about last week, but the show went like 4.5 hours like crazy last week, and we missed you. How was the ballet?
Oh, it was good, man. I got up on my tippy toes doing some pirouettes. They tried to make me wear a tutu, but I wouldn't do it, dude. I refused. I have morals. But you want to know who else has morals? These fantastic Panther fans that bless us with their presence in the YouTube chat every single Tuesday night. You know them and love them. It's our guy, Drew. What's up, Drew? Blind Panther Vlogs, C3D's Ill Skills, Chad Howell, Dan Floyd, Hemlock, Joshua Hall, Justin D. Young. What's up, JD? Kim Sanity, Kristen Ledane, KT, Muscles, Marinara, Paisan. What's up, brother? Smells Like Blue, Supreme Leader Z, the Anime Roundtable, TJ, Tim Estes, Tony Dunn. There ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's roll.
Did you know why we told people you were at the ballet?
I have no idea, but I just
have no idea. None.
No.
Oh man!
Oh, did something about that dude with the big balls or some shit?
Yeah, we knew you flew to Denmark, and we've changed it. We're going, and we'll let you. We'll have the listeners continue to give us feedback on this. What
kind of show am I a part of?
We're changing the dab on them. The name of the award is because it's kind of time to move on from the Cam Newton era to the Bryce Young era. But we've got two options. We're either changing the dab on them pick of the week to the David Dotto Ball Out Award, or it's the David Dotto, aka Dab on them Ball Out Award. So,
dude, I don't know how I feel about this.
Triple D balled out.
Yeah,
hey,
well,
listen, this goes well with your signature saying, Cody.
About nuts and ants and something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, dude. If you guys say so, man. I'm down for
you're
whatever.
the one that flew all the way to Denmark to see him. CK back in the house. Dad giving babies baths and ready to rock on the C3 Panthers podcast. Welcome back.
Thanks, man. I'm just happy to be here. Just talk about what's going on in the world of the Panthers with you guys. It's a nice little escape for the day to day, and I'm assuming that's what we're trying to be for all the people in the chat room and listening on the road even tomorrow. It's nice to be here and just kind of take a break from reality and just be here with you fellas.
Greg in the house. What's up, my man?
Oh man, I'm kind of feeling CK's vibe. That's the idea, is just getting away from life right here. It's funny because this is kind of a lull in the season as far as fans even coming to the show. We have kind of a lower point where not as many fans are live, but I understand because you got to be a real hardcore Panthers fan to be listening to a Panthers podcast at this point in time, and I'm glad we have all these people here because I want to talk about Panthers football.
I feel like they just love us. They just want to hang
be
out
it.
with the boys
Could
on a
be it.
Tuesday night, Chill.
At least, I mean, there is a little bit actual to talk about because of minicamp, but I think is today or tomorrow. Tomorrow's like the last day. Is it
Today
already
was
over?
the first day.
I don't know,
of
dude.
minicamp,
I
right?
don't remember minicamp ever being this long.
Me
Like it
neither.
seems
There
like
was-
they've
yeah.
been. It
Hold on,
seems like
there's-
they've been there for like 2 weeks.
There was OTAs the last few weeks, right? And the rookie minicamp before that. But this is the first time. This is the start of minicamp for us. Was today. So today is the first because this was the mandatory stuff. Everything else has been voluntary up to this point.
Do we know who hasn't participated?
No, well, for us
volunteer
is
stuff?
everybody is. We haven't had any like that.
Yeah,
I think we had a really great turnout too for the OTAs, which it seems like more and more players in this world are more interested in being involved rather than not being there,
It's a good sign.
unless they're trying to make some statement. But we do have some news about Stephon Diggs leaving the mandatory minicamp today, and so we'll talk about that. Shout out to our Paisan Muscles Marinara. We're going to be prepping for training camp, which is going to be in July. And Muscles Marinara has a beautiful sandwich shop called Monster Sub and Grub. We're going to be doing some plugs for them. And when we go to training camp, we're going to pop in. C3 is going to go and eat at Monster Subs and Grub and maybe even record a podcast while we're there. See if we can continue to arrange all of that. So look, it's the C3 Panthers podcast. Jump in the chat, call into the show at 252-228-5098. Smash the thumbs up button, subscribe, consider being a C3 super fan for $1.90 a month, not $1.99 a month. You can help support the C3 Panthers podcast grow as we continue to do more events like training camp that's on the way. And I do want to give one more shout out. Let me see, to Jay Edwards. Jay Edwards became a $5 patron on Patreon, guys. So thank you for your support for all the C3 super fans and people who drop super chats, who share the link. One of the things is like D's Ill Skills, brand ambassador out there working for us, working hard. All of those small things help us continue to grow. And like Greg said, is while this is the dead time, we don't take time off. We still like to hang out with all the listeners. Your input is welcome. Let's go ahead and jump into the show, Cody.
All right. From zero to hero. I titled tonight's show, Will the Number Zero Turn Brian Burns into our hero? Got so much to talk about, but the biggest news that transpired over the course of the past week, something that we all knew was inevitable. Bryce Young has officially been elevated to the number one quarterback spot on the depth chart over Andy Dalton. I wanted to give us all a minute to react to this news. Again, no big surprise. We knew they were going to give Bryce every opportunity to win that job, and it looks like he's basically already done so. Gentlemen, what are we thinking?
Zero surprise. You know, I mean, is that they said that Frank Wright came out and talked about it earlier in the week and said, or last week maybe, he said it's just they felt like the time was right.
Right.
And this was kind of the schedule and the plan, I think, all along. I think what is clear, though, and what I think we have pretty much been echoing, or at least I've been saying on this show, is that you can just go ahead and pencil in Bryce Young as starter week one.
Right.
Right. Don't even pencil it in. Just put it in pen unless some sort of a travesty happens or some crazy thing like that. But Bryce Young is doing all the right things. He is what they said he was. He is as advertised. If anything, he's just crazily soft-spoken, where it's like, why is this child out there playing pro football? And he's like, hey guys, like, that's two questions, not one. I'm Bryce Young. I'm the coolest, nicest kid. It's like the kid that you want your children to hang out with.
Buy
like,
an ice
no
cream.
trouble, no problems. he has been fantastic. And as I just want to put this out there.
Have you ever seen the South Park episode where they meet the Mormons? And like the Mormon kids, they're like the nicest, sweetest kids in the world, and they keep trying to find bad things about them, but they just can't. That reminds me of Bryce.
Yeah. He's kind of like Nikola. He's like the mini Nikola Jokic, and what I mean by that is Jokic. I heard it was, gosh, who is the guy? He got in trouble in college for like stealing a credit card. He was a basketball player. He's got Doug Gottlieb. Doug Gottlieb was a basketball, and he was talking today. I thought he had an interesting take. He was talking about all the great transcendent type players, whether it be Jerry Rice, Jokic, Patrick Mahomes, and they're not. And he even used Cam Newton as an example. As Cam Newton looks like the athlete you draw up in the lab, and he said this is that. He said, look, but this is all the greatest athletes, the guys that can run the fastest, jump the highest. They're not always the greatest player. And it's that special something, that intangible. And that's what we're all banking on Bryce Young having.
Yeah. Go ahead, CK.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bryce Young that's all we can hope for. I mean, I've said it before, and I think it still stands true. He's the complete opposite of Cam Newton. And that was part of the reasons I wanted him. Not that I didn't love Cam Newton, but I was ready for something different. And I think Bryce Young brings that to the table. And I'm ready to see if the Panthers can become an offense that is intelligent enough to where they can adapt, which it doesn't feel like we've had in a long time.
Yeah.
He is the guy that is he is, you're right. It's the opposite, the polar opposite of Cam Newton in stature, in demeanor, in style, and probably style, and not probably, and in style of play. And so for all the people that were shitting on Cam for not being that traditional quarterback, this guy's got to deliver.
Yeah. And I agree with CK. He is the polar opposite. I've been saying this for a while of Cam Newton in just about any and every way imaginable, from the demeanor to the size to the overall play style. But I did want to bring this up, but y'all, as soon as this clip came out of Bryce just walking, everybody was like, damn, Bryce is sticking it up. Look at them legs. Look at them. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? This dude still, look, I'm so pumped about Bryce Young this season, but he doesn't look any bigger to me. He still looks like a small guy.
He did have kind of big legs for his size all along. And you know what? That's important for quarterbacks. A lot of their power comes out, right?
Do any of you think that he's put on weight since the last time you saw him play college or whatever?
Maybe,
sure
maybe a hair.
But I mean, I don't think that's anything. I don't think it's enough to where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, man, he looks thick. You know what I mean? Like it's not the Tua style, like what we're seeing with Tua right now. It's not that type of an increase.
Can y'all hear
Tua noticeably thicker?
Yeah. I don't hear an echo, no.
You don't hear an echo, so maybe it's just me. Okay, I can deal with that. It's just me then. Hey, I wanted to say real quick, this whole thing with Bryce Young being named number one, it's not surprising. It's just earlier than I thought it would be. Based on the way they were talking whenever they was drafted with Andy Dalton and everything, I figured they would at least wait till through training camp, even maybe the preseason, before they said, okay, this guy's the guy. But it's expected. And it should be. We traded to get this guy for number one pick. He should be the starter no matter what.
There used to be a great comedian on YouTube. He was a YouTuber, and he did the Ray Lewis impressions. Do you remember? It would be like Ray Lewis talking to whatever, and he was like and he dressed like Ray Lewis. Do you guys not remember that? Where he wore the Ray Lewis jersey, and he did I'm gonna show you. I'll have to show you. I'll play just the audio of it. But he had this great one about Steph Curry. In fact, maybe I'll find it, but it reminds me so much of Bryce Young. So is that he's just so young. I mean, what is he, 21? Can he drink?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I paid enough attention to him beforehand to notice if he's gained any weight or gotten any bigger, to be honest.
No, to me, it was just like all the Panther fans that, were like trying to say, oh, they'll be able to gain weight. Listen, I've already accepted that the dude is small months ago to the point that I'm not even like tripping about him having to gain a ton of weight. Like, if anything, I think that the dude is probably going to be the most successful weighing whatever the hell he does weigh naturally, somewhere between 190 and 200. So I'm not even worried about it. I do think it'll be hard for him to continue to gain muscle, just because his frame isn't necessarily like built for that. Unless he takes some supplements.
He looks like Ray Lewis.
You don't remember that? I'll probably get demonetized. Let me see if I can find a way to do this without sharing it. This is him doing Cam Newton. This was one of the Steph Curry one's great. Let me see. Bet you this will work.
Also anything with now I hear an echo.
All right. You guys mute your mics. All right.
All right.
Can you hear that?
No.
What are we supposed to be hearing?
You can't hear it?
No.
Oh, never mind. Here, I'm gonna down. I'll try recording it. All right, keep going while I try to figure this out.
Yeah, let's move on to the next part. Another bit of news that is definitely worth talking about. It's what we titled the show around tonight. Brian Burns, the first Panther in their history to don the number 0 as his number. He changed his number recently. He said that 53 was the number that kind of chose him. He never really chose it. Let me see if I can pull up this video of Brian Burns talking about changing to the number 0. Yeah, I have it right here. And then we can talk about it.
It's new. There's a lot of new things going on. And like I said, I never really chose 53. 53 kind of chose me. Like, I put all the available Murky, I put all the available numbers in the hat. I kept picking it. So I was like, I guess I wouldn't touch 90. So I was like, all right, 53 it is. So that's kind of how that happened. And then when my position technically got switched to OLB, it was kind of like, all right, why not? It's like a new beginning. Got Cody, right? Got Bryce and shit. So, I mean, got Bryce and whatnot. So, yeah.
Did you consider any other?
All right. Brian Burns wearing number 0.
I like how you said, I'm not touching number 90. That's pretty good.
90 was Pep. 99 was KK.
At first, I felt bad. I didn't like the number at first with the idea of being a pass rusher. But I think in the 3-4, and it just kind of looks pretty cool on him.
It looks cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but him with his poses and stuff, I think it is. I think him having symmetry with that number is great.
Now we hear it if you're playing it.
All right. Here, this is Ray Lewis motivational speech on how to stop Steph Curry. And this is the one that reminds me of Bryce Young.
At some point in your life, you decided you wanted to be an NBA basketball player. Around that same time, you probably prayed that you would grow up to be about 6'2", 6'4", 6'8" if you were selfish. You made it. You got there. You got that. At what point in your life did you accept that you would be dominated by the Golden State Warriors? And they ain't even got Chris Mullin. Somebody has to put a stop to Stephen Curry. I don't care how cute he is. He might look like he's in the 3rd grade, but that man waiting on the perfect opportunity to get you on that basketball court so he can embarrass you. When you see him, you play him soft. He reminds you of your little brother. He reminds you of your little nephew, all bright-eyed and bushy-headed. That's called psychological warfare. That man don't even have to practice no more. You on that basketball court running suicides. He in the locker room doing the whip and the nay-nay and pointing at people's shoes, saying, what are those? And after practice, you sitting in that ice bath. You eating ibuprofens and Advil. He's sitting on the floor Indian style, eating chicken nuggets and tater tots out of a lunchbox with Olaf on it. Do you want to build a snowman? Snap out of it. Don't let that man control.
I always say that his name is Andre Boyd. He doesn't make them anymore, but he had a really good one about stop Cam from dancing, and how you have to stop Cam from dancing. But when he said he's sitting on the locker room floor, Indian style, eating chicken nuggets and tater tots out of an Olaf lunchbox, that's what I think of when it comes to Bryce Young.
Yeah. As far as the Burns wearing number 0, is that where we were at?
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I really do. He's going to be the first one in Panthers history not to wear it, but be in the it's going to be retired, probably a 0, hopefully, by the end of his career.
Person only, right? Is that what we're hoping? And that's the thing is right now there's a part of me, and I'm assuming there's a lot of people out there that are pissed off by this because I see, people just on Twitter complaining about the fact that they just bought his jersey and all that stuff, and now there's like this overwhelming amount of people that are just pissed off because of it. And I'm happy that I didn't buy it yet because I think the moment we get news of his extension is when I'm getting the Burns jersey.
Well, speaking of that news, is in the news is that he is 11th in sacks. I read since 2019 throughout the league. I also read that that his run defense isn't that, ultimately impressive, but there's been a lot of interest from teams in the past where you go back to reports of the Rams wanting to offer like a first or multiple firsts. I think at one point Green Bay may have been interested, or we heard that name. Then he was one of the names on the list that Chicago was hoping to get in as we traded up from 8 to 1 to get Bryce Young. So what this is that I guess all that's telling us he should be he's going to be paid as a top tier pass rusher. Mm-hmm. And I guess the Bosa kid is the only one that might get more money than him right now. Max Crosby, I think, just signed a big deal, $28 million a year or something like that. Yeah. So, Brian Burns is in line. And I think this is like the Panthers we've talked about this in the past, is the Panthers have no choice but to extend Brian Burns.
Mm-hmm.
They put themselves in that position for sure.
Yeah. And he has become a very important part of the franchise. Mm-hmm. On the field, going back to when they unveiled the black on the black jerseys, he was the guy that they featured. They have made him in the post Matt Rule era. He is going to be the face that Shaq Thompson was over the last 2 years. Maybe he has continued to be a big, important part of the team. He's great behind the camera. He's great behind the microphone, and he's durable, or at least he's been available, unlike Jaycee Horn has. And he's important, and we're going to need him to not only get paid but play well in this new defense.
Yeah. Yeah. He's, as you kind of said, he's such an important part of our defense, and like he is our pass rush. We had 1 year of him and Hassan Reddick, but now we're moving him to that outside linebacker position. And, he didn't seem like he was, a lot of players are like really choosing to rush. When they want their money, they want it now, or they kind of, they'll skip all the off-season stuff until they get paid. Brian Burns is not doing that. This is Brian talking a little bit about.
Well, he's not really doing anything either because he's recovering from that.
Yeah, he's recovering. But so again, it's like,
yeah.
12 of one, half a dozen of the other.
He was killing that Spider-Man pose, though.
Yeah, I think you're making a good point. I think you're making a good point. Let's play that clip because it is important the way his attitude is about this.
Where do things stand with that?
Well, with that, we have a conversation. It's about the most I can say about it.
When would you like it to be done?
I don't have a preference really. I'm just kind of blessed to be in that even in that talk and the opportunity to have that. So, all right, now I'm just enjoying the process, enjoying everything that comes with it. To get into that.
I think I think you raise a good point about not being in the rush, Cody. But I think at the same time, I think in many ways that's because he has all the leverage in this situation.
Yeah.
So I don't think he knows. Look, he's coming off a damn foot injury or a surgery, and he's still going to get top money. He knows the Panthers need him. He knows the Panthers want him. He wants to be in Carolina right now. It's not like another player that he's got to play hardball to get what he wants out of it. I think that he knows, and I think that's a comfort. That's a comfort. And if he is recovering, the good news is he's just walking around in plain shoes.
Yeah. And you know something else, man? Like right now I have this video of him teaching up YGM. And I mean he's the OG on the squad now. He's the cool guy. He's the big man on campus. Everybody wants to, but when you're looking for a veteran to look up to, it really does seem like Brian Burns has really taken on one of those veteran leadership roles for the Panthers. And I love that about him, man. And it's a big year. And to be honest, he's one of the players that I'm most excited for. A lot of people have felt like he was best served as a 3-4 outside linebacker, basically since before he was even drafted. And now we're finally going to be using him in that type of scenario. I'm pumped. I'm excited to see what Brian Burns does this season. I'm almost certain that they're going to get the contract done before Spartanburg comes around.
Yeah, this does suit his skill set, right? Yeah, and I think that a lot of the DNs coming out of college these days actually have the skill set to play in the 3-4. And like in the past, right? In the past, it was hard finding those guys. 10 years ago, you're trying to find big guys that are athletic enough. Now the problem is you can find athletic guys, but they're not big enough to play in a 4-3 at times. And Brian Burns has not been bad in the 4-3. I mean, obviously he got over 10 sacks. He's done everything that was asked and required of him. But now, boy, I mean, he might be able to sit back and really not sit back, but settle into what his skills really could benefit him and be very productive.
When he was drafted, was that the year we made did we draft him with the understanding we were going to be moving to that hybrid 4-3, 3-4?
Yeah, I think so. That's when Ron Rivera kind of.
So he was really drafted for a 3-4 style play anyway. He's just been playing, I wouldn't say out of position, but he's been playing in a position that probably a lot of GMs in the NFL wouldn't have started him in.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great point. And then when you consider the news that came out with Tommy Tremble saying that, basically as a tight end, they would never even teach like the passing concepts. Like they were not being coached up while Matt Rule was here in town. So you kind of look at all the players on the roster and think like, man, how many dudes have just been criminally underserviced by this dog shit lackluster coaching that we've had for years here in Carolina? Yeah. How many players are playing out of position? How many players haven't been, fine-tuned by their coaches during the season on the details of their positions? And
or just not even getting what they could have, reaching their potential. Right. I mean, the very end of it is not even just a disservice. It's just like, man, you drafted players and we don't think we're ready to write those guys off like a Tommy Tremble, right? You're ready to write these guys off. And you wonder too, is just how much are you really putting them in a position to succeed? And I think that's what Nick Saban always says, like coaching really is about putting people in places and giving them a structure to succeed and to reach their potential. It's not teaching, it's like nourishing them. And we didn't have, at least, the Tommy Tremble thing, just it really just it doesn't even raise red flags. It just finally it tells us what we all thought, what we all knew. And really the saddest part about it is that it tells us it was worse than we even really thought in some ways. If anything, is Matt Rule is one of the greatest con men in football, and still could be, still is.
And I will be the first to say that I don't like what I'm about to say, because I don't believe that it's 1,000%, going to put him in the right. But Teddy Bridgewater kind of warned us.
Yeah, he did.
He kind of warned us, and we were still in the honeymoon phase of the Matt Rule era. We were like, all right, he did what we wanted him to do. We wanted him to get rid of Teddy Bridgewater. And here's the thing. I'm still standing by that. I don't believe that Teddy Bridgewater was an answer. I do think we would have been better off keeping him, even though I did not want that. But like we were told, I mean, this is something that he told us about. And so this is not a surprise, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody at this point, because it is.
The Teddy Bridgewater stuff, CK, was the problem with the comment is it sounded so ridiculous to think that you aren't practicing those things. Like you were like, what in the world? Like, it's like, how can you not? And maybe again, you know what? We should have, and we probably let our
fandom
Teddy Bridgewater dislike, or at least myself.
I think it's important that we add that context, because we felt it was like Teddy was once again trying to make excuses. Also make excuses for his own lackluster play. And at that time,
he was calling out other players, and he was calling out the coaches. And it was at the time in the season too where the coaching staff had soured on Teddy Bridgewater.
Yes.
So you could see that relationship dissipating right before you. And I will be honest, is I didn't like Teddy. I still was like, man, we should have rocked with, there's a lot of reasons why I was not, that I didn't think he was great. I think really, actually, the thing that made me the most mad about him was the length of the contract, and then just quitting on it after you did 3 years and big money. But going back to what he was telling us does give us insight, CK. That's a really good point, because that's something that college coaches probably don't do as much. Red zone, is like.
Sure.
I mean, it's just they're probably speed. It's just a different way of getting in the end zone than getting up there and saying, we're going to run our best plays. We got to do this. We've got to execute. We got to be all about the clock. We got to all about down and distance. And that's just too advanced. And I think that continues to show that Matt Rule just wasn't he's not a football guy.
No.
And maybe LeVar Arrington is the biggest and I like LeVar Arrington. He has a morning show with two pros and a cup of Joe. I hate the guy that's the Joe, but LeVar Arrington's pretty cool. But he was at Penn State when Matt Rule was there, and he always said, man, Matt Rule was like his like little tutor.
Yeah, I'm not too big to admit that I owe Teddy an apology.
Yeah,
because I do.
He was right.
I remember being very bullheaded about how bullshit it was. And you're right, Tony. Like, and how naive we were at the time to believe that it was impossible for an NFL coach to not have his team practicing red zone. And we thought that was like, dude, that is absurd. But we really
we're never going to get there, so why practice?
Yeah, we really had no idea the level of incompetency that we were dealing with at the quarterback position. And Teddy did try and tell people, so CK, you are 100% correct. I do owe him an apology. Many people do.
I see a lot of super fans in the chat. I appreciate you guys for being C3 super fans. For just a small donation, monthly donation, you can help continue to grow this podcast. We got some really big, this is going to be our biggest season going ahead, and we've got some great surprises that we're working on in the background. And I want to make sure, it was either Nirvas or Sideshow Rob, one of them was saying that they want to And when we talk about the contract, he's saying, let's go ahead and pay this guy. And while we got some empty cap space right now, let's front load this so that we're not stuck in 2 years when Bryce Young is hopefully reaching the apex of his rookie deal with no money.
That's what I was saying last week. I said that if we're not going to sign any of these big guys to any major contracts, if that's really not the plan, then don't. Just go ahead and front load, take all that. Because, I mean, with as much cap as we have, I don't think it's impossible for us to put a pretty large portion of that contract that we're going to most likely offer and put it in this year. And that way we can still have a cheap alternative at defensive line without having that risk of not, having to. Basically, we don't want to have a super team and not be able to pay Bryce later on if he does end up balling out,
or not be able to put parts around Bryce beyond this year.
Sure.
Right. That we've been talking and praising this squad, this Scott Fitterer and the crew for actually going out and getting some pieces for Bryce Young to work with. Miles Sanders, who I'm right now, I'm of the belief he could be one of the greatest fantasy football steals, because I think that they believe Miles Sanders can be a 3-down back. I think that's why bringing in a guy like Dalvin Cook would not really be a good fit for the Carolina Panthers, despite him being a very talented player.
Redundant.
Yeah, and over-investing in a position group. But the point being is that, like, we've already put some, we were kind of excited, like, in this offseason, we brought in some pieces on the offense to help this rookie quarterback acclimate and maybe even succeed in his rookie year. But you don't want him to really be hitting his stride in year 3 and you not have the money to go out and get. I already saw somebody putting out there, Stephon Diggs, a Carolina Panther next year.
I don't know about
I'm serious with that. Go ahead, Greg.
If Bryce Young looks good, it's going to attract more free agents to want to come here. Like, if he looks really good this season and there's like a hot wide receiver that's a free agent next year looking for a trade, it'll make Carolina a much more desirable place for them to be.
And I don't want Diggs right now. I feel like we're going to be on the back end of Diggs.
I want to draft the guy. I want Mingo to be the guy.
Yeah, no, I love what Greg just said.
Yeah.
We need to get younger, and we need to continue to draft well. Like, we have to find these guys and get them on rookie contracts. And I do want to talk a little bit about contracts in a minute, because you're talking about, not having that super team amount of dollars on your salary cap, and not being able to pay Bryce, which if Bryce is good, we're going to pay Bryce no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking about Bryce, before we get to that, Brian Burns, how about this? Brian Burns is the most charismatic interview on our team by far. Yeah. Like, whenever you listen to him, he's
2023 wasn't a good year for the Carolina Panthers, but I'm trying to make 2024 a better one for myself. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including keto options, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Skip that overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door, and they're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Head to factormeals.com/C350 and use the promo code C350 to get 50% off. That's code C350 at factormeals.com/C350 to get 50% off.
Doctors take Field of Greens for their own health. Here's Dr. Ryan Green to explain.
We're like you, too much fast food and not enough exercise. That's why I take Field of Greens. The fruits and vegetables in Field of Greens support my heart, lungs, kidneys, and metabolism for weight loss. And Field of Greens promises your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back.
Get 15% off with promo code HEALTH at fieldofgreens.com. That's promo code HEALTH at fieldofgreens.com. Product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Been the most fun to listen to. He's having fun with the reporters. But my man was feeling loose today, had on his cool sunglasses, and he was asked about Bryce Young. And this is what he had to say about his brand new quarterback.
You talked about all
Shout out to Vashti Hurt at Carolina Blitz for the video.
the change. What are your early impressions of Bryce? I know it's the other side of the ball,
I
but,
don't like him.
but for real though.
I don't like him. I'm just saying. It's hard not to like that kid. I don't know. He put quite a stamp on the locker room. He walks around with this kind of humble, excuse my language, like humble, but I know I'm the shit, like type of swag. You know what I'm saying? Like he know he got it, but he's humble with it, and he's always like, he's always happy. I don't know. It's, I mean,
Always happy. I think he's comfortable in his skin. That's one thing that I like about Bryce. And Bryce Young is also one of those people who I believe is naturally cool. Right. And what I mean by that is like if you try to be cool, you ain't cool, right? If you have to try to look fly, you don't look fly. The people that are cool just are cool. Mm-hmm. They don't try. Yeah. And I think that's when he's saying, hey, this guy is humble, but he knows he's the shit. That's confidence. That's where the difference between confidence and arrogance and cockiness are.
He should be confident too. I mean, based on what we've seen from him so far, there's nothing that stopped him. Every obstacle in his way, he's gone past.
He's the number one pick.
He should be as confident as he can be coming in. I hope he is. I really do. Just it's going to be different in the NFL. I think we're going to see how he does. I think he's going to do well.
Hey, CK, our favorite Paisan, he's at the gym working out, but he found some time to become a brand new member. Why don't you welcome that man?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, Muscles Marinara, working on them muscles, is in the gym watching C3 and still found the time to hit that join button. He became a C3 super fan, and we should all welcome him to this elite club of human beings who want to help C3 continue to grow and support so we can actually improve the quality and maybe even get a nice little podcast episode out of his restaurant down in Spartanburg.
Ooh,
welcome to the club.
I'm craving me a meatball sub, baby. Shout out to Muscles Marinara. But yeah, one of the things that you guys have kind of brought up too, and it brings to my mind the importance of what this season is going to mean for so many different players on our defense, because so many players are coming up to their contract. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Jeremy Chin. We're talking about Derek Brown. Then you're going to add the money that we're going to pay to Brian Burns. And all of a sudden, with just those three contracts, you're looking at a pretty penny. And then, by the way, next year, you'll be able to pick up the fifth-year option on JC. But, that's in short order. He's going to come around, too. And I just want to warn people, man. Like, I don't necessarily know if every single guy is going to make that cut. That's why this year is going to be so important. And specifically, the player that I'm talking about is Jeremy Chin. I mean, we're going into his fourth year. And as a podcast, we're still not entirely sure what position Jeremy Chin is best suited to play. Now, this defensive staff feels like they have an idea for how they want to use him. But it's going to be really important this year what kind of level of play he's able to produce. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't know if he's going to get top safety dollars here in Carolina for, let's say he balls out this year for one great year. Yeah, they might pay him, but then it's like, who do you prioritize more, Jeremy Chin or Derek Brown? who is literally the monster in the middle of your defense that everything kind of flows around. So a lot of very interesting questions that are going to play out this year on defense.
I think it's more than 1 year with Chin, though. He had a pretty good rookie year, too, didn't he?
Rookie year was only a great year, really. I mean,
yeah.
Well, no, his second year was very good. It just was
never
so
been
hard
bad.
to eclipse that first year.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like Jamar Chase's sophomore season.
Yeah.
You know, it's like hard. Like, how can you eclipse 1,600 yards and whatever 1,000 million touchdowns he had? Chen was just, I mean, he had 2 touchdowns in one game in his
Back-to-back
rookie
plays,
year.
I think, wasn't it?
Like, yeah, yeah, something like that. And he was just incredible. And then last year, I know he was working through some injuries, right? And, you know, is that you wonder how much all of those factors, if we're talking about Tommy Tremble and them not thriving, you know, could we say something similar for a guy like Jeremy Chin?
We can, and I'm going to tell you why we can, is because this dumb coaching staff that we had, when he had such a great rookie year, the next year they moved him out of that position. Like, they wanted to use him in a more versatile, so they moved him to safety at that point. He had he had a great rookie season, and you decide to move him out of that position. Like, he was so valuable. And just playing up close to the line in that linebacker position, I believe they had him at. And you to make a decision like that's like basically telling me that you're going to move Brian Burns from pass rush to I'm just going to be a coverage linebacker, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're going to come back to with is what Cody is saying is like one of these guys. Remember, Dave Gettleman said sometimes you have to let a big dog walk. Right. It's like there's just only so much money to go around, or at least that's the Carolina that we're used to. Right. We're used to living in a Carolina Panther world where we don't get all the cool shit. So, like, we're not going to be able to have all these nice things. The question is, what is the most expensive of the position groups? And also, what is the hardest to replace via draft, via free agency? And can you get a player like maybe Von Bell is, you know, and what is the drop off between that and, I don't know, a veteran who was, remember we got that one veteran tackle from Tennessee. I forget what his name was. And he was okay. Wasn't great. It was 2 years ago. It was Matt Rule's rookie season. We got some guy and he was a little bit older. I forget his name. But the point is like, is it going to be harder to replace Derek Brown? Is it going to be harder to replace Jeremy Chin? Is it going to be harder to replace Jaycee Horn? And right now, the easiest one to replace out of them is Jaycee Horn because he's always hurt.
Well, I think you can make the case that the Panthers have already kind of started to prepare for life after Jeremy Chin with the drafting of Jamie Robinson in the 4th round. That safety.
And Von Bell. Some of these safeties.
We really loaded up. We really loaded up on safety, and I think it's much easier to replace the safety position than it is a premier defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, it's a big year for Derek Brown too, because he was great last year in terms of pressures and getting in the backfield. PFF had him ranked their number 7 defensive tackle in all the NFL. But, Dexter Lawrence, the defensive tackle for the Giants, he went to Clemson. He's a badass, man. He just got paid up in New York. And it's like, man, he got paid buku bucks.
Yeah,
and
he might be the hardest to keep, Derek Brown, is because it's expensive, but it's also one of those. It seems like it's one of the more replaceable positions. It seems like every year there's some new defensive tackle coming out of college that is pretty damn talented. Now, you might have to get him in the top 10. But the one thing, my last point about Jeremy Chin is that I'm very curious to see what he looks like in this defense. Right. Because, I don't know what this defense – I don't know. We're going to learn a lot. This is going to be a fun season for the podcast when it comes to looking at the Panthers defense, because we're just going to be learning about a 3-4. We're going to be learning about Ejiro Evero's style, and it's going to be, I think, such a different. It's going to be so. I don't know if refreshing is the right word, but it's just going to be such a different thing than we're accustomed to. And I'm curious to see, is something like Shaq Thompson, Luvu, and Jeremy Chin as a linebacking core, could that truly work? And maybe it can.
Yeah.
Maybe it can. Maybe you're just like the fastest fucking defense with Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, Luvu. Luvu's fast, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is like these guys can play. And if you're in that, I wonder, do the linebackers in a 3-4 beyond the outside, beyond those pass rushing ones, do they have a lot more coverage responsibilities? I'll be curious to see how Shaq Thompson's position is different.
Well,
how Frankie Luvu's position is different than last year.
Well, they have Shaq playing inside linebacker. That's what he's listed as.
Well, if you do that with Chin and you put him as a linebacker, isn't that doing exactly what we just got on to Matt Rule about with Jeremy Chin? We saw him play great as a safety, so why put him anywhere else?
To be honest, I don't know what position Jeremy Chin has played.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if it was like when you say he played linebacker, I'm like, what year was that? When you say you played safety, I'm like, what year was that? I don't know.
Jeremy Chin played close to the line, and he did not play coverage safety very often at the position that he was at, right? Okay. So that's what I'm saying is like you moved him from that into like a full-on like safety position, and they moved him off of the line. Okay. And I think that when you look at those impact plays that he had, let's go to that Washington game where he had those back-to-back fumble recoveries. He was playing close to the line, and he was able to impact the run game.
Minnesota.
No, it was no, because we lost to. We were about to win that, and we still lost, even though Jeremy Chin did that.
I swear it was Minnesota where Cousins beat us on the 4th down drive, and Jeremy Chin scored more than our offense.
Oh, you might be right. I swore it was
sounds
Washington,
Panthers.
But yeah, now that you're saying that, it does sound like it was Minnesota.
JJ with the 199 says Jeremy Chin is cooked with keeping Burns and Brown. And that's kind of the point that I've been making, man. I swear, I do not have an anti-Jeremy Chin agenda. I'm saying up to this point in his career, other than one good rookie season, he has not been truly elite at any position that he's played. Now, there's a lot that goes into that. You can say the coaching, Phil Snow, all these other different issues that the C3 Panthers podcast broke a lot of that inside news pertaining to that last season.
Oh, that's right. I've almost forgotten that. That feels like, doesn't that almost feel like a million years ago?
It is a million years ago in my mind.
It was just last season.
Yeah. But when you remember all that stuff, he was having gripes with how Phil Snow was playing him in his defense and that he was almost moving around too much. So it's going to be so interesting to see what specific game plan Ejiro Evero has for Jeremy Chin. But the overall point that I was making is, as of right now, Jeremy Chin is the odd man out in that equation.
You're right, but he might be the actual easiest one to keep. Right? Is he truly going to command a bunch of money in free agency?
I think.
And when we go back and talk about Shaq Thompson saying, "Oh, he took the team discount and all of this," he was pretty clear that he said nobody's getting paid in free agency as a linebacker. So it was not like he was adverse to listening to somebody paying him the money.
Right.
Is Jeremy Chin going to be able to have the monetary leverage on us that a Derek Brown or even, sadly, Jaycee Horn will have because of just the position group? So I'm almost saying this is like you're right that he's probably the odd. He seems like the odd man out at this point, but he might be the most realistic of actually keeping because you're not going to have to pay him bukus.
Yeah, but I also feel like you're going to have a team like the Eagles, the Bills, the Chiefs, these really good football teams that are going to be able to say, yeah, you know what, we're willing to overpay a little bit because we already have a damn good football team. We know you're athletic as hell. Come here, and you're going to be able to produce for us. Whereas I feel like the market,
The Chiefs does seem like that
that's what
actually,
I'm
when you
saying.
say that, it sounds like, remember when the Honey Badger went there? There's been a couple of guys that went and did that. And to be honest,
underappreciated players go to contenders.
And they don't have to overpay. When you're the Chiefs, you don't have to overpay. You're like, hey, man, we're going to win a Super Bowl. Like, we'll pay you whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like,
come
sure.
hang out. yeah. So
come to the barbecue with Andy Reid.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem that likely. And by the way, to use a Dave Gettleman term, Dave Gettleman would talk about players who get their first kick of the can. And he would talk about the first time you can sign your second contract in the NFL, you don't know how many more of those you're going to get. You're fighting for literally as much money as humanly possible. And I think a lot of Panther fans are naive with this. Oh, they'll take a hometown discount because they want to stay here with the Panthers. It's like,
they only do that if they nailed a giant deal like Shaq Thompson already did.
Dude, they can love the place that they're in, and they're still going to go for wherever the money is even bigger.
I disagree to some piece of that. I think there is some value in not uprooting yourself and your family and stuff, especially if you've already got a house and let's say you're living in Charlotte now, right? The idea of now having to sell that house, buy another house, maybe go to a place like California where the cost
make
of living
$1 bazillion on your house in Charlotte.
Well, maybe, but it depends upon the circumstance. Right now, the market is going down. Depends upon when they bought it, right? But I mean, even when you think about that, you think about the cost of living in Charlotte compared to, say, Los Angeles or any of these other big. You're talking about
going to Florida and Texas with them income taxes,
right? You're talking about a completely. Now, I'm not saying that it's still not an attractive situation for them to go into, but I'm just saying I think hometown discount doesn't just mean hometown because they want to stay here and be a part of this team, but I think it also has to do with the fact that there's a lot of things that go into switching teams, and now you have to worry about all of those hopefully that you're going to have the jersey sales that you want, and hopefully you're going to have the market of sponsorships that you want, right? You might not have that option available in those markets because they may already be taken up by their stars in those locations.
I think when we talk about that's such it's so steeped in the fan perspective when we talk about like, oh, well, man, like stay with the familiar place and this and that. And like, and it also, I feel, is also steeped in the regular man perspective. And that is like, we make regular people, common people money. But like a 20% pay increase, would you take a job that said, hey, I'll give you a 20% pay increase to go from this college to that college? And I'm sitting there going, that's what's good. Kids, sorry, kids, we're changing schools. And people go, oh, well, it's just $1 million. It's just this. I do think we probably, if I'm a player and you're thinking about those factors, CK, though, I do think the tax bracket probably really should be some sort of factor. I saw somebody talking about and I don't know if it was a Houston player. I mean, it was somebody from Texas or from Florida, but they were talking about their deal, and they said, hey, this is like, look, he's going to make $28 million next year, whatever. He's going to pay $12 million in federal taxes. And he's going to pay 0 in state taxes. Like, you think about what that is, and you go to a different state of like, what is the state income tax? What a benefit of being in Florida.
Oh yeah, all those tax exempt states, Texas, Florida. Yeah, it's a real thing. Players wanting to play in those states. By the way, CK, JJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, JJ has also hit that join button for $1.99. He has become a C3 super fan. He wants to support the podcast. I'm hoping that a couple of you will like to do the same, but if not, just hit that like button. I'll say shame you a little bit later, but I appreciate you, JJ. Welcome to the C3 Superfan Club.
Hey, shout out my guy, JJ, the man of many jerseys.
I wanted
And
to
it-
ask DK
yeah.
this before we move on, just while we're on the tax thing. He's the one that probably is the best with money, I feel like, out of our group.
He's the master of coin over here.
Yeah.
At C3.
If so, one of the things in the field I'm in, people like to work for the state of North Carolina, particularly if they live in a place like Charlotte, somewhere near the border. So they'll work and they'll catch retirement in North Carolina. And if they're young enough, they try to double dip retirement and like go get 10 years or 15 years still. Like my wife is going to be able to retire at 52 with her 30 years. So she could have
You work for the state, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So she's going to get her full retirement. I think maybe she might actually run into some problems because she's too young. I think there's actually an age you have to hit too. But some people will then they live close to the border and they'll go teach in Virginia for a while, or they'll go to South Carolina and they try to take advantage of additional benefits, particularly if you could get vested for double health insurance and some whatever. When you teach, if you lived in Waxhaw, Charlotte, like right on the border, and then you went to and worked in South Carolina, say in their school system, which not many people probably would. But do you have to pay 2 state income taxes?
Yeah, if you're working in those states, you do. Like
if you're working in South Carolina but living in North Carolina, do you only pay the income tax to South Carolina, or does North Carolina hit you too?
A lot of states require that you pay in both.
Yuck.
Yeah. So so my buddy, he's an electrician, so he would sometimes have to be going down to North Carolina for a job or whatnot, and he would be taxed in both Virginia and North Carolina for their payroll tax.
That's just for income, though, right? That's not for property and everything else. Okay.
Right, but income still, like that's like, I mean, gosh, it's going to devastate you. Anyway, all right.
Well, it depends on what you make in the other state. If you don't make a lot of money, you're not going to get taxed that ton of money.
Right.
You
know? All right.
Yeah.
What's
chat
next?
room is saying yes.
Yeah, you're not going to make 100,000 in both states, I don't think. If you are, then better. Yeah, more power to you. But.
Next up, our guy Jonathan Mingo has signed his new deal, signing his contract with the Carolina Panthers. That means there's only one down. Bryce Young is the only one left to sign. Essentially, the Panthers signed their draft picks in reverse order of the way they were drafted.
Right? Was it Jamie that signed his like on day one?
Yeah. And then DJ. Then it was. Yeah, it was then DJ, then Chandler Zavala, and then now Mingo.
I still want to know, like, we need to get an agent on this show and tell us what the fuck under this CBA they're waiting on. Like, because the CBA seems so structured. I know it's like when the payments are allocated, it's like PTO. You're like negotiating, like, do I get child involvement leave or some shit like that with your kids, or is that? But it seems so small, and Bryce Young has not signed. And is there any risk of him practicing? I mean, I guess not. I mean, it's not like the Panthers, whatever. It's like, I mean, unless he got hit by a meteor and like his legs got chopped off or something.
Right.
I mean, I wonder
what I've seen happen, and this is just from my recollection of what happened with Joey Bosa, was about the guaranteed money, I think, or signing bonus or whatnot. It was one of those things that I guess is not a guarantee with the rookie contracts. So, but it might be the signing bonus if that was how much of that's going to be front loaded, like instead of it being back loaded.
We got a big time tax policy show. So we've had 2 shows. This is, remember last year or when we were talking about the turf, and we had like a
show. Oh yeah, whatever happened to old boy? He was in here every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also donated a ton to our Bradley Bozeman charity thing.
Yeah, that's right. So everybody's gonna, don't worry, everybody's gonna get. They're taking their vacation time right now.
Yeah.
Everybody, sometimes you just need to take a break from football, you know? which we understand, and that includes talk shows and whatnot. I go on those little hiatuses from many of the shows that I would watch too. So
yeah, I go on binges myself. And while we're talking about Mango right here, he has disappeared from the talk, and it has been Terrace Marshall Jr. all over the place.
Yeah, and just today, Bryce Young, he dropped a deep bomb downfield to Terrace Marshall Jr. in the back of the end zone. So we're always kind of starting to see that connection, and I've been a predictor that Terrace Marshall Jr. was going to be our number one wide receiver this year. But that is a good question that I am about to put in the chat. Where does Jonathan Mingo fit into this? Is he a wide receiver 2, 3, 4?
Well, the good news is we don't have to rush him along, particularly, man, wouldn't it be the greatest blessing if Terrace Marshall Jr. turned out? The problem would be is like how much what if he really turns out, and then you're adding him to the list of names of Derek Brown and Jaycee Horn and Jeremy Chin and this and that is like that if he balls out, he needs to ball out so he can make some money, right? I mean, this is an important year for him. I think he's in either the second to last year of his rookie deal. So this is an important year. And look, I think we've seen him on social media, the way he's been training, the way he's been presenting himself has been very focused. You talked about Adam Thielen just raving about the rookies. I think it's not just about the rookies. I think he was probably talking about Bryce Young a lot, but I think it's these younger players, probably a Terrace Marshall Jr. And it seems like he's hungry. It seems like he's focused. Yeah. And I think Terrace Marshall Jr. is taking an approach right here is that, like, don't forget about me. I'm good. Like, I am what Cody said I am. And I know that more than any of these fools know it. And it's my time to really get shit done. And so I'm really excited about Terrace Marshall Jr. right now. And Cody, the one ball, they didn't have it on video, the deep one. But there was one floating around, and I would say it's the pass with the most zip I've seen from Bryce Young throw. And I know these are camps. Look, they're not even rushed. Like, if you look at Bryce Young, and I don't want people to be like, oh, he's so I mean, he is. Right. We think he is all these things, but they're like, look at him going through. The whole point of these practices is going through the reads. You can see the coach on the side, like, basically tell him one. Like helping them time and things. But this ball is finally moving. That's the most I've seen a ball move from Bryce Young so far.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, Terrace Marshall Jr., boom, getting the hands out.
Good catch.
Getting the feet in. I mean,
they've been talking about TMJ having stickum. Like, basically looks like he's just got natural stickum. Just the ball is holding on to his hands no matter what. Like, look
at the first down marker here. This is really interesting play. I haven't looked at it this close. Like, so does that mean they're moving the sticks right there? It looks like that's what they're like, maybe practicing a third down route, trying to get a first down here. And what I love about this pass, guys, is that if you think about how you throw this in the NFL, is it needs to be like that. It needs to be difficult for his own receiver to kind of catch. Mm-hmm. Because that's a pick six if it's thrown wrong.
Watch how fast he checks his reads right here. Just look at his head after the snap. Watch this. I'm impressed with this.
This is a third down play, I bet.
Look, bam, 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 bam. Like, that was pretty fast to go back and forth and read the field
impressed.
like that.
And
that
CK, you have been talking about Terrace Marshall Jr. being the breakout guy. I think you're right. And I'm so mad that I'm so ahead. I'm always early to the party on this shit. I was listening to Cody fucking, oh man, Terrace Marshall Jr. is going to bust out. He's going to be so credible. And I drafted him real late in my keeper league and do shit. I ended up having to, I had to let him go because of injuries and shit like that. But yeah, I mean, that's the type of player trying to hit a gem late in those late rounds on the keeper and then him blow up right now. It could be Terrace Marshall's year.
Yeah.
I absolutely think it could be Terrace Marshall's year. I've been predicting that this guy is the number one in our offense. He's always had number one wide receiver potential. And we've talked a little bit before about, is the receiving core below average? Is it above average? Are they injury prone? All this other shit, right? But
and you've been defending them.
Yes. And I think that if you get the most out of these guys, this is the most athletic receiving core that the Panthers have had maybe ever. I mean, again, I know you've had some great ones, Steve Smith, Moose, but I'm talking just about young, fast, big, explosive, tall, catch radius, like all of the things that you want in a wide receiver. These guys have that in abundance. Terrace Marshall Jr., DJ Chark. Now you add Jonathan Mingo to that mix. Now you add a young rookie quarterback that's dynamic enough to be able to spread the ball around. And that's what he did at Alabama. They didn't have that number one wide receiver for the Crimson Tide last year. They had to spread the ball around. And that's what Bryce Young is good at doing. You see him going through his progressions lightning fast, as Greg pointed out. I am far more worried about the Panthers defense than I am the Panthers offense. And as I sit here before you today on what's today's date? The 13th. It is a Tuesday, and I am sitting here telling you, I think this offense can be prolific, that we can really do some damage this year. And I've said that for a while, and I really think that you're starting to see the blossoming of something that's going to be really special for the Panthers this year.
Somebody brought this up to me on Twitter. I'm going to have to go track it down. I want to give them credit. I think it was last week when we did I asked people on Twitter what we should be talking about, because you weren't here. The ballet, we didn't know enough about the ballet to really fill the show with that stuff. But they brought up is that they said compare Muhsin Muhammad and Terrace Marshall Jr. Both 6'2" receivers, both speed, but big in size, fast enough. Muhammad Moose was listed at 215 pounds according to Pro Football Reference. Terrace Marshall Jr., they have him listed at 200. We're interested, as he grows into a man, I think 215, 210 is reasonable for him. That he looks, I think it's a good point, is that they are sort of resemblant, at least in their stature to me in some ways. Muhsin Muhammad, year 3, this is how his career went. He went 407 yards, 1 touchdown his rookie year. His second year, Moose had 317 yards in 1997 and no touchdowns. 98, 941 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's year 3 for him. Terrace Marshall Jr. is entering year 3. He had 490 yards and 1 touchdown in his second season. Moose had 317 and 0. Could this be the 1998 Muhsin Muhammad run for Terrace Marshall Jr.? If Terrace Marshall Jr. puts up 941 yards and 6 touchdowns, you'll be jumping for joy. By the way, year 4 for Moose, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Imagine if they had the same trajectory. That would be incredible. In fact, that's what we have to do. We have to start. We're beginning the TMJ for Moose campaign. We got to come up with a good name for it. We got to figure out a way. This is the Moose Knuckle year or something. What? Something. We got to get something.
That's Muhsin Marshall Jr.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Chat, get on that, and we'll also let's try to debut those. Hit those up on Twitter at @cat_chronicles, or drop them in the Discord. You can find the Discord link in the show notes. The C3, the Panthers chat on Discord is really fun. It's a great place to go hang out if you like to just talk Panther content.
The link is in the description, by the way, to the Discord. So peep that.
We can get maybe we need a hashtag for this. So let's start working on this, Panther Nation. Let's start working on the hashtag of something. We got to figure it out. MTM something. You tell us what the hashtag is, what the name of the campaign is, because if we can get year 3 Muhsin Muhammad in year 3 of Terrace Marshall Jr., we're talking almost 1,000-yard receiver and 6 touchdowns. I love it.
I like this from JJ. TMJ is filling the moose tracks.
Yeah. Sounds like an ice cream.
Man. Yeah, I did. By the way, one of my favorite kinds of ice cream.
All right, what's next? Terrace Marshall Jr. on his way, hopefully. And look, Moose had a really prolific career. He had he only had 3 years of 1,000-yard seasons. Moose was a touchdown man. And I see this is what I want Terrace Marshall Jr. to be. Maybe this is what he needs to learn from Thielen. If Andy Dalton is the tutor of Bryce Young, Thielen needs to be the Terrace Marshall Jr. tutor.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Frank Reich has said that Adam Thielen, he's the leader in the locker room. And yeah, Pop, if you're still here, we are going to play that. We're going to talk about Adam Thielen. That's going to be a great discussion. But this next segment, Tony, you put this out on Twitter.
It got some good tracks. People like
it did.
Stuff.
And it's a little bit of a blast from the past. And it'll be interesting to see what people have to say about it. Who was worse? You know, we always do the who's best, right?
Yeah.
But now we're doing who was worse for the Carolina Panthers. And we got 2 bad ones, okay? Matt Kalil or Byron Bell. Put the last name in the chat. Let me we
could do A and B. A for Matt Kalil, B for Byron Bell. You could do MKBB. You can do their names in the chat. Who was worse? My friend, I've been going on pirate radio now for almost as long as I've been doing, what the podcast is 11th year. So I'm in 9 or 10 of going on Fridays and talking Panthers football on pirate radio with my boy, Clip Brock. You can check me out at 4 p.m. on PRL Live. They broadcast that also on YouTube, Facebook, and different things. It's out of Greenville. And we do basically an hour-long segment on Panthers, half on Panthers, half on the NFL in general. And he always brings up me just lambasting Byron Bell. Like he was always like, you were so almost to the point you were so mean, Tony, to this guy on this show that it felt exaggerated. It felt over the top. That's how I felt, according to Clip Brock, about Byron Bell. But I fucking hate Matt Kalil even more.
I feel like Matt Kalil set us back way worse than Byron Bell did.
Yes. You asked Byron Bell to do something he wasn't qualified to do, and then he was bad at it. So Byron Bell played he was okay at guard. I think he was okay at right tackle.
Right.
You put him on the left side, and this is when I think this was a Dave Gettleman thing or Ron Rivera, and they said he's left-handed. Wasn't that Byron Bell? They go, oh, he's left-handed. It's going to be his natural position.
Yeah.
But it's one thing. It's like me putting me out on an NFL field and saying, oh, well, look at him. Tony just sucks at quarterback. Well, no shit. Not supposed to be playing quarterback in the NFL. Byron Bell was asked to do more than he was capable of. Matt Kalil just stole a bunch of $1 billion from us. I always said this is they should make him pick up trash after the games in the stands. You're paying him $55 million. Fucking, I'm going to not let you just go and cheer in the locker room. Fuck that. You're picking up trash because that's what you were putting down.
Well, how does our guy Pat Coltrane calls it? Nephewtism. All right. Man. We had Ryan Kalil on the team, and
he was advocating for this.
Yeah, that he wanted to have his little brother play on the same team as him. He was a former number 4 overall pick, and yeah, we gave him so much money. But it's funny that you bring up these two Tony, because if you were a fan when these two dudes were playing, like they were these two dudes were hated amongst Panther fans. They didn't want, to see either of these men out on the field for a single snap because they were turnstiles. They were constantly getting their ass whipped.
I still think Kalil was worse. I think
saw
even
somebody
Kalil was
on
worse
Twitter.
at left tackle even.
Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter say, well, at least Byron Bell could play other positions. Like he could play tackle. I mean, yeah, he could play tackle. He could play a little bit of guard. But I mean,
We didn't pay him. We didn't pay Byron Bell a lot of money. We paid Matt Kalil a ton of money. Byron Bell went and played for the Dallas Cowboys a little bit. Where the hell is Matt Kalil? Right?
At home.
Like, I mean, where is he? Is he in the NFL anymore? And him and his brother
living with that generational wealth we paid him.
Yeah,
his brother took a lot of money from the NFL, and I'm not gonna.
Ryan was good though. Like,
he was
Ryan
good for us, but he went and signed that one. Do you remember he retired?
Yeah, and then he went to the Jets and
signed like he was like, you know what? I'll take $13 million. Yeah. And they both went on and started a fucking movie production company.
Oh, is Matt Kalil a part of that?
Yeah, I think it's them together. I think it's brothers together, both of them.
By the way,
might be wrong on that.
86% of the chat has voted for Matt Kalil. So
we were so mean to Byron Bell, though. So think about that. Think of when you say both were hated, Cody. Byron Bell was, like my friend said, it was like almost unfair. It was, the hatred was so visceral. It was and then just think this: we dislike Matt Kalil even more.
Yeah, dude, he was so bad, man.
He was terrible.
Dude, the minute
that hurt people.
Dude, he would just get Cam Newton fucking slaughtered. Man.
I think Matt Kalil teaches he was the reason he showed Dave Gettleman had come unhinged. Right? Is Dave Gettleman after the 2013 season, and then was the 2015 season. I had a Dave Gettleman for president icon on my Twitter account.
Yeah.
He looked like a brilliant person after, and I would say before 2015, he was starting to already show those signs of being that. But then you have the then you had the 2015 season, and you're like, God, and he said he was so good. He was so charismatic behind the mic. He started to believe in himself too much, I think he bought into his own hype. But it all started with him stop listening to his own fucking advice. He says, you don't shop hungry in free agency, and you use free agency to set up the draft. And then that Josh Norman shit hit. The Josh Norman shit, he got ego. It seemed like an ego battle in some ways. And he's like, I'm not going to pay this motherfucker the money. They're trying to strong arm me. Well, I'll show these motherfuckers because I'm the best GM in the league. I'll just rescind the franchise tag and you can just walk. And then we go into that draft with our backs against the wall, shopping hungry, and we pick Daryl Worley, Zach Sanchez, and one other one. I think it was a safety or something. And none of them worked out. In fact, Daryl Worley passed out. And the last I heard about him, at one point, he was passed out in like a intersection in his car from being like high or something.
Yeah, I do remember that. And he actually went on to kind of be okay for the Raiders.
Well, I don't even know
too.
what he did, but that's when and maybe it was the Eagles. He was the passed out one.
Yeah, he was with the Eagles, and then he went to the Raiders, but then he kind of played well.
I just think with Gettleman, we saw that season after the
Bradbury was the other name. Bradbury was
that's
drafted.
right. And Bradbury turned out to be good. It was.
Yeah.
It went Bradbury, Worley, Sanchez, I think was the order of those guys in the draft. But we picked 3 corners. Then they all had to go out. Bradbury had to start from day one. We were trying to start Bradbury and Worley, and we're 2 rookie corners. that year together. And this is then the next part. That was the first sign with Dave Gettleman. The second sign was him being late to giving in to what was clearly needed, right? So he was late to the party with the Matt Kalil thing. It's like we needed the left tackle 2 years ago. We needed a year, you know, and it was like, oh, well, I'll fix this. And he threw a bunch of money. You know, by the way, we could have gotten Okung, and Okung went on and had a good time, I think, with either went from the Chargers to the Broncos
It's
or the
funny
Broncos.
you say that because Ryan Kalil commented on Twitter. One of the fans had mentioned Russell Okung, and Ryan Kalil had commented like, I don't want him here. Like everyone else was saying, we want Russell Okung here, and Kalil was like,
yeah,
no, not me.
Yeah, I want my brother here. We're going to create this movie company.
Right.
And then the next one too, that was the second, and it might have, and then it goes, oh, we have no fucking offense around Cam. We got to give him some weapons. And that's when we started going out and getting, well, maybe not. DJ Moore was a Marty Herney. Christian McCaffrey was a Gettleman.
Yeah.
And it just felt like Gettleman, if he would have just stuck to his original plan and not bought into his own hype and his ego, it would have actually worked. But then he started backpedaling and reaching, you know, and it just too late. It was just like, oh, well, we got to get this left tackle because Michael Orr. Ooh, another sad story. The Michael Orr, I wonder how he's doing.
I'm sure he's doing fine.
Just a couple of
concussions. Was he the one that didn't he put up a picture with a gun at one point?
No, I think no. You know what I do remember?
He had like a shotgun and like on a.
He posted a picture of all the pills that he was taking.
Oh, it was pill. Okay.
Yeah, it was. He had a lot of different pills.
Oh, he was like, "This is so I can sleep" or some shit. Yeah,
yeah, something like that. But real quick before we move on, you know what's funny about Gettleman? That 2015 year, Josh Norman and Odell Beckham Jr. have a brawl in the middle of the football field.
Yeah.
And Gettleman did the same thing to both of them. He told Josh Norman to get to stepping, and then
he traded Odell away.
He traded Odell away. And by the way, he also was it Gettleman Steve Smith, or was that?
Yeah. I think Gettleman had a problem with I think Gettleman's
big
ego,
personality.
Yeah, I think Gettleman's ego turns out to be as big as all of those other players, and
sure.
maybe unfounded in a way. I mean, Steve Smith having an ego is understandable, right? He's gonna be a Hall of Fame player, and he had to have that chip to be what he was. So like he earned, it wasn't ego. It started as ego for Steve Smith, but he earned it. He backed it up. You know, he put his money where his mouth was in a way. Gettleman, I think his ego was just turned out to be big and not earned, or at least short-lived. He bought into himself too much. Look, same thing is what he drafted Daniel Jones ahead of. He went Saquon.
Yeah,
he did Saquon and Daniel Jones. And who was the other quarterbacks he could have gotten?
He could have gotten Josh Allen
there might
that
have been
year.
Somebody.
Yeah, because Josh Allen was available. Because Baker Mayfield went 1, and then Saquon Barkley went number 2. Yeah, then he got Josh Allen. I do like the tackles that he drafted. He also drafted Dexter Lawrence. Again, it's like I feel
he's
like
always good at drafting a hog molly.
But let's also say that, well, not Vernon Butler. That's definitely not a
Coney
great one.
Ealy.
Yeah, but see, even then, Coney Ealy was damn near a Super Bowl MVP.
Isn't it? Isn't that the wild thing? Is you wonder, and again, I think of like what would have Cam's career been? It's like the butterfly effect. Like if you could change one happening, one play or something. If the Kotchery catch was a catch, if the strip sack wasn't a strip sack, if Graham Gano even in 2016 hits that that field goal to not fucking the downward spiral of what I think was the beginning of the end of Cam Newton. If it was, you could see Cody's going to come up here and say, oh, if Kelvin Benjamin would have fucking not been a lazy ass, like all of these small different things. Coney Ely. I mean, what about the story there is like, what if you win that Super Bowl? Coney Ely is the fucking MVP over Cam Newton.
Unreal.
I wonder, like, would Coney Ely turn out to be a fucking star? Or would he have crumbled? Like, I mean, I wonder what that moment, we always think about Cam and some things, but poor Coney.
Do you remember Coney was selling dogs? And he was like, yeah, he was selling purebred dogs. Because you remember that dude that would write the articles for Deadspin, why your team sucks? And every week or day or whatever, he would do a different team. Well, I remember he got to the Panthers and he was talking about Coney Ely had this thing that like he was selling dogs. And if I'm remembering correctly, it was like he was telling people that he was selling these purebred dogs. But it's like there was no way to verify it. Like they didn't have any papers or any shit like that. I don't know. I just remember Coney Ely was selling dogs at one point in time. Or he had something to do with
Coney Ely in lawsuit involving rare dog.
Yeah, I told you. There was
according to Charlotte Observer's Michael Gordon, plaintiff Chris Johnson alleges Ely and his brother, Danny Dogman Jones, conned him out of $3,000. Allegedly, Ely and Jones convinced Johnson to invest money in their new dog breeding business. They were interested in breeding Borabels. But in order to do so, they needed $6,000 for a breeding female. The details get a little mangled, but apparently Johnson shelled out $3,000 and the plan never seemed to have come to fruition. Johnson had repeatedly asked him for a refund, and neither Ely nor Jones gave him his $3,000 back. Jones received his nickname, Danny Dogman Jones, because he sold bulldogs to godfathers of the Black Mafia in St. Louis.
Whoa!
He had later, so Coney Ely's brother, Danny Jones, used to sell bulldogs to the Black Mafia family in St. Louis, which he later expanded to selling cocaine. He got out. Holy shit. How did I not hear this?
Yeah,
he got out after being shot 17 times.
Whoa, dude.
Coney Ely's brother.
Wow. He's a modern day
Danny
50 Cent out here.
Jones. Yeah, 17. Left for dead, to say the least. This one's a confusing one. Attorney Rayner said. Interesting. Coney Ely.
Wow, boy.
It kind of sounds like what who's the coach of Primetime? That's what Primetime wants in a defensive end right there. You got a brother that breeds dogs and fucking has been shot 17 times. Hell yeah.
And doesn't give people back their refund when they demand
Scholarship, bitch. Scholarship.
Yeah, man. So look, no, we're gonna kind of go a little bit out of order here just because I want to talk about this next. I want to talk about Adam Thielen for a minute. Because Adam Thielen has very quickly become the leader of the Panthers wide receiver core. So much so that Frank Reich basically even said as much. Give me some time just to pull the right one up. But he also had some things to say about our rookie class. And we're going to play that first. This is some very flattering words that Adam Thielen said about the rookies here in Carolina.
And really, all these young guys have impressed me. Probably the best rookie group I've ever been around as far as just coming in here and not missing a beat. You know, they haven't had as many reps as we have. You know, we've had a couple more weeks of practicing and being around each other, and they came in and really didn't miss a beat. So I thought, you know, in my time in the 11 years in the league, I've never seen a group that just kind of, you know, hasn't looked like rookies. And you know, everybody has their, you know, moments and things like that, even veteran guys. But it's been really impressive.
So, see, again, one of the things that we've said about Bryce Young is his preparedness and his readiness, it appears to be kind of rubbing off on other teammates as well. This is, that's pretty big comparisons by Adam Thielen, considering he's been a part of some good rookie classes, man.
Yeah.
He saw Stephon Diggs come into Minnesota. There's been a lot. And again, I'll find it here in a minute. There is a clip of Frank Reich talking about Adam Thielen and how Adam Thielen has very quickly become the leader of the wide receiver room, and that he's the guy that all the young dudes kind of fall back on. And I love that about him, man. Like having that veteran presence in the locker room, that's awesome to me. I love that.
Well, I love it for a couple of reasons. Number one, can we this is something that's easily expected, right? I mean, if you're talking about a wide receiver room, there's not one much younger than the Panthers right now, right? We don't have an established room of wide receivers that that they're going to be able to look up to. And now Thielen comes in here. Why would you, if you're a young wide receiver, why wouldn't you look up to Adam Thielen, who's not only found a way to remain good throughout his career, but also have a long career in the NFL up to this point, right? He's not been
super in shape too.
Right.
Like Thielen, when he came in, when he went on, who's the guy? Who's our guy on YouTube that's now with ESPN? Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
They were talking about, I think he has like a protein bar. Like there's a reason he takes care of his body, right? He's like I think he's super Christian. Like I think he's one of those well-behaved people.
Right.
Where they're kind of like the Tom Brady, but not a dork. And when I think is Thielen, it's shown like the proof is in the pudding. And Thielen, people are saying he's lost this and that. He's been productive though. Reminds you in many ways, savvy, like what Ricky Prohl was.
Yeah.
Now Ricky Prohl was drafted as a top talent.
He's been available though. Like that's what I think is one people will like overlook, is that not only has he been one of the most consistent, like record breaking, by the way, like most consecutive or most 100-yard receiving games in a single season and stuff like that, but he's been consistently available throughout his career there in Minnesota. He's one of the most feel-good stories of any NFL team or any superstar in the NFL. And is he the same as he was 7-8 years ago? No, sure, he's not going to be the same quality player, just like Steve Smith wasn't towards the end of his career, right? But and I'm not, again, don't take that as me saying that Thielen is Steve Smith, right? But I'm just stating that he's not going to have the same level of athleticism he did, but I think dude's smart and he's got great route running. I think he's going to be an asset, and this young wide receiver core is going to learn a lot from a guy like that.
Yeah. This is Frank Reich talking about that very thing.
Thielen's the leader. He's doing a great job. It's good to see DJ, back out there. Chenault is a really unique piece.
Why does it keep pausing?
Terrace Marshall's, look good. Mingo's, I think Mingo's got a chance. He's a rookie, so he's got, ways to go. It's hard for rookie receivers to develop, but he's got the right mentality and attitude. And then really across the board, we like to spread the ball all around. Thielen, he's the leader. Chark is our big play guy. But I think the ball will get spread around. I think that's the way our offense has always been built. That's what we want to do this year.
Another thing about Adam Thielen is that we forget that he's 6'2". Like he's a big dude. Like he's not small. Like there was a part of me in my head that was like, you said Ricky Prohl, and Ricky Prohl was like 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot, something like that. He wasn't a big guy.
He was a very highly touted player coming out of college, Ricky Prohl.
Yeah.
I think he came out of Wake Forest. I'm not 100%, but he was like a first or a second
UNC,
round.
right? Because his son went to UNC.
I thought he was a Wake Forest guy.
I think that I believe Thielen is going to have that.
He was Wake Forest.
Fitzgerald style, role here towards the end of Fitzgerald's career. He was a very good slot receiver. He didn't need to be a super fast runner. He was there. He was consistent. He's going to be in a position where he's going to help this team, and he's going to be in those third down, roles as well, making sure that he's able to get those, 5, 6, 7 yards that he needs every single time there's a third down. I think he's going to be a great asset, and he's going to be a Swiss Army knife. But I think that he's going to have a Fitzgerald type of role within this offense.
Yeah,
this is wild. You're gonna. I don't know if this is wild, but you can go ahead and look. Is what was great about Pro is the longevity of his career. He was drafted in 1990. He hung it up basically with Carolina in 05, but in 06 he went to Indy and played one game in Indy, but he had 8,800 receiving yards. He had 54 touchdowns. What's really interesting about this is the longevity of his career that was big. He got a lot of targets when he was in Phoenix before he then went to Seattle and St. Louis, but he never had 1,000-yard season ever. Wow. And so what did I say? All right, so remember these numbers. 8,800 receiving yards, 54 touchdowns over 16 years. Adam Thielen, 6,600 receiving yards over 8 years. Did not even play until his third season in Minnesota. He has 50. He already has more touchdowns than Ricky Proehl did.
Yeah,
he also has two 1,000-yard seasons. And you said he's 6'2", 200 pounds. Guess who was listed on Pro Football Reference as 6'2", 200 pounds? Terrace Marshall Jr.
Okay.
I wonder. I got a feeling Terrace Marshall Jr. might be the one who benefits potentially more than anybody from Adam Thielen.
And the fact that he's able to take these young dudes under his wing, show them the ropes, show them the best possible tips and tricks to have them be the best receivers possible. And I love what Frank Reich said there, because he said what we've already known, that we want to spread the ball around. We want to get the ball into the hands of all of our guys, and we're built to do just that. I'm telling you, Tony, CK, I'm really pumped about what this offense has the potential to be this year. Like, I know a lot of people are telling me to temper my expectations, and I understand why people don't want to get their hopes up, but at the same time, I've just seen the talent that we have available to us. And if our offensive line is able to pick up where they were from last year, dude, I'm fucking pumped, man.
I saw something about, Austin Corbett is coming still dealing. I mean, not still dealing. He had an ACL tear late in the season. I think it was maybe even the last game or something.
It was the last game.
Yeah, it was.
And so that's late.
Christensen.
Yeah, both of them. And I think Christensen looks like his injury was less severe and has been
it was just
coming
a break.
along.
He's been taking snaps. It's in shorts and shirts, but he's been on the line. He's been out there.
Right. But
doing
Corbett, there's a story on Panthers.com, or there was maybe a day or two ago, and it was Corbett, as he rehabs, is dealing with boredom. Wasn't he the one that was on the bicycle though? He's taking up bike riding or something like that. And so we see that, we believe that is his recovery is progressing well.
Right.
But there are going to be some question marks, like you said, if the line is as good as it was last year.
Right.
And I think there's a good chance it will be and can be. One is that our left tackle, Icky, you ain't heard, you're like the more we don't hear about Ike Ekwonu, the better. I don't want to see him on no mic. I don't want to see him nowhere around. What I mean by that is, if you ain't hearing Icky's name, that means his ass ain't getting beat. It ain't I just want to hear that. And he's going into his second season. He was very good in his rookie year. I don't care if you want to show me a couple of plays where he got beat as a rookie. The question was was he going to be agile enough to play left tackle in the NFL? Be able to, but like you were just ready to see how he's going to deal with the speed guys. And I think he did fine. So you see him going into his second year. Bozeman feels comfortable in Carolina. If we've got to be looking at Taylor Moton. There's going to be a lot of what is Taylor Moton going to be for the Panthers?
Yeah.
And if he's not, then you're going to be talking about Brady Christensen at right tackle.
Hey, shout out to my boy White Chocolate. Me and him have been on this. I kind of think when you have someone like Brady Christensen who does have the skill set of a tackle, I kind of think it's a waste to not be using him as a tackle. And by the way, if you've looked at Christensen, my man is big right now. Like, he is swole, dude. He is really filled into that guard position. I think you're going to see a big year from him as well.
I wonder if Moton is going to be able to get a second life in his career by maybe being a guard late.
I mean, maybe. I don't even know.
Reminds me of Michael Orr a lot.
I mean, it could be. I think that the situation. One of the things I'm frustrated by is the fact that Icky has had he had a great rookie season. He had a rough first few games because, again, rookie, and he was going against some of the best the NFL had to offer. With Myles Garrett and some other people there at the beginning of the year. But even beyond that, like when you look at his production with a quarterback in Baker Mayfield who was holding onto the ball entirely too long, he would pump fake. He would when you look back on that and you want to blame Icky for those, I don't even know. I mean, he's got some issues, right, in those first few games, but the dude was lights out there in the back, really not even at the end of the game or end of the season. He was lights out after like 3 games. He went 12 games without allowing a sack. Like, the dude was actually doing a really good job. And one of my irritations is when you look at these lists of how well did the rookie class of Carolina Panthers do? They always talk about his struggles, and then they don't. They talk about how these other tackles were so much better than him. I'm like, I don't know that there was another tackle that was more consistent than Icky was last year, even with the struggles we were having offensively.
You want to hear something, or you want to see something sad? More funny. It's amusing, actually. It's more amusing. And you brought this up because you reminded me of Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield he was trending, at least on my Twitter. And I don't know if trending on Twitter when I go to sports is because of what I look at. Well, it's tailored for me, but his name was pretty high up there. Oh, it's because he's got this video of him talking shit to Rodrigo Blankenship, who is the kicker. So he's walking past the kicker for the Bucks, and he goes, then they shake hands. He goes, I still don't like you, because Blankenship hit the field goal for Georgia to win over the Sooners, right? So, I mean, it's funny. Baker's charismatic in a way, right? It's like he attracts. We had the Baker bump even on this show. This he's kind of like one of my internet rivals for a long time, Jaycee de La Toure. He is a Bucks writer and fan. And right now he's going through and watching all the Panthers games with Baker, and he's trying to convince himself that Baker's good, right? That he's not bad. And it's kind of funny because we did the same shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, this. So he goes, and it goes like this is, if the protection held up long enough, this is the Browns game, for Baker to get the ball off, and the Panthers' shitty receivers held on to the football. So many drops. There were a lot, but he had a lot. Good things happened. Week 1, playing his old team, the Browns, it was pretty slow start for Baker due to the O-line problems and unfamiliarity with receivers and scheme. But when you bring that up, he goes on to this. He's like, oh, Mayfield hit a 50-yard bomb, which we almost won that damn game.
Yeah. He did do everything in his power to win that towards the end.
But when you bring that up and he's talking shit about our offensive line, he's watching these games game by game, and he's tweeting about them. So I've been reading them, and I say something back to him. I'm like, man, dude, don't worry. you bring up a great point is that like Icky turned out to have a great season. I was like, man, this guy's trashing our offensive line. But yeah, it was week 3. And our offensive line gelled as the season went on.
Oh, we didn't have Bozeman towards at the beginning.
That's
either.
another one. Icky got better after about week 3. And he wasn't bad. It was just like, hey, man, there was a couple of plays where he just got beat, and that was expected. That's what's going to happen. But then you're right, is that later, it might have been week 6 or something like that. We put in Bozeman and Christensen, and it started to really gel. So I'm just watching him trying to talk himself into Baker is not the problem. He's a Baker bottom now. He's a Baker bottom.
He is the Baker bottom, and we were Baker bottoms. At least a few of us were, and his charisma. The thing with I think we fell in love with his charisma.
I was never a Baker bottom for the record.
You weren't. No,
you eventually came on board. You did. Don't even say that you didn't, Cody. You came on board.
No, I thought that we would be an average football team.
You cheered for him.
That does not mean on board. No, I fight.
You weren't a bottom. You were. I wouldn't put you on a bottom.
Yeah, you weren't like rooting for him to like blow it up.
I was sitting here thinking he might be good.
Yeah, I
was Jaycee Del Torre.
We were looking at his press conference, and unfortunately, and here's the thing, and again, people are going to be mad about this, but we saw the charisma that Cam Newton brought with Baker Mayfield, right? Like, and we hadn't seen that in a minute, and now all of a sudden we had that back, and it was a number 1 overall pick, and there was just so much hope around that maybe, I mean, there was still things he did good on film in the Browns organization, right? So we still had something to look back on and say, there is a positive there, right? Now, here's the thing. If you're a Bucs fan, you're going to look back on this season and the last couple of seasons in the Browns, and you're going to be like, all right, so in 5 seasons in the NFL, he had 1 good season, and we're going to try to sell ourselves on him being a good player in this league. Like, we
heard
really
Browns fans, CK. Browns fans were cool because they were active. They got a good fan base and Baker, the Baker Bros is a thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about Baker. I like it. I'm a Baker bro for the reason that he helped the podcast. It gave us, brought a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And, I was kind of like everybody in week 1 thinks it can work. But you're right. When it comes to Cleveland, like at least we had a couple of moments where you could have said, oh, look, he looked good there. Jaycee Del Torre, he has to completely not look at Baker. Like he's like, I'm going to look at this play and I'm going to look at everybody but Baker and I'm going to find what's wrong.
Right.
Like you can't look at Baker's time in Carolina and come away with anything good.
You can't. No, because like we talked about, our line got better as the year went on. Baker got worse with every possible thing.
Week 1 was his best game.
It was, and he did not get any better. Like even in that game,
he got worse.
Yeah, I mean the part of it that he got, even with the worst thing that the Browns said about Baker, he was worse than that for the Panthers.
Yes,
right.
Even the Baker haters came on the show and were like, "Damn."
Yeah, it was not. Nobody expected him to be that bad. Like not even like you said, not even the people that hated Baker. Like his worst fans would have never thought he was going to be as bad as he was in Carolina.
He made PJ Walker and Sam Darnold look great.
He made Sam Darnold look elite, dude.
Like I'm sitting here going to extend Sam Darnold after that.
I know,
shit.
Right? Because we've seen that horrendous gameplay, and like we want to talk about how Sam Darnold did the year before. Sam Darnold wasn't nearly as bad as Baker was his full year of starting for us, like where we did horribly.
Agreed.
Like that's the funny thing about this whole thing. I don't know, man. I'm glad that he's gone, but I think anybody who looks at their situation and thinks he's going to be a starting guy in our league is fooling themselves.
It's awesome. The Baker bump was a real thing, though. The Baker bump was a real thing, and
100%.
This is what I was doing. You missed this, Cody. Last week we asked people to call in. We asked people to meme it up. We haven't gotten a lot of. Again, it's the dead time, so it's hard. You got to be some of the hardcore people like that are in the chat right now. So many C3s in the chat. I see that. I love that. Anthony Picarello starting the damn army. These ill skills out there. Brand ambassador. Kristen Delane out here having great conversation. She said this as she was talking about Moten and the decline here. Josh, C3 superfan, love to see you in the chat every week. These are the hardcore people. Last week we asked, what was Steve Smith saying in that picture where he's like, like what? Tell the story, and one of the things we said, or I started the show, Cody, I said, one thing he could be saying is, can you believe you can live for 40 days without eating food like Russell Okung did and only lived on water? How wild is that shit? And then the other one was I saw one random tweet, and I have not chased it down anymore, and I'm just going to believe it's true, that Brian Burns could potentially be dating Taylor Swift. And my boy Clip said, that would be the best fucking thing for your podcast. If the Swifties, they're a thing on the internet. They would make the Baker bump look like nothing.
No. So yeah, well, that's true.
Like you would put Taylor Swift in the title, and the videos would just the Baker Bros. It was a thing. Like they're gonna follow him.
We would get shut down the moment they broke up. Like they would just come and spam report us.
Right. Let's see it. Imagine if the Swifties, the bump on the post game show, Brian Burns, Swifty, Taylor Swift alert. She's at the game cheering for Brian Burns. Be like 9 million people in the 9 million 12-year-old girls in the chat room.
Wonder how much we could pay Taylor Swift to let us license the song she writes about Brian Burns.
Yeah, it's like, can we get a cameo?
Yeah, can we
imagine how much that would cost? The Taylor Swift cameo would probably be like $9,000 for her to be like, "Hey, C3, yeah. I love Brian Burns.
I love Brian Burns. You should see him naked." What?
You know what? He looks great in 263 pounds.
Yeah. So look, let's run through these final topics that we have here. This one, just a bunch of players that were out at training camp. For some, obviously Steve Smith was out there. Greg Mabin, Vicarious Keys, and
these are new
Jordan
additions.
Matthews.
No, you're reading this wrong. You're reading the tweet wrong.
It said Jordan Matthews was a player before.
No, look, the Panthers are headed out for minicamp in a few, and they're expected to have 3 tryout players in addition to the 89 on the roster. So 89 don't got to do with Agent 89.
But why were you saying Jordan Matthews was like a player that plays?
Because he is now a tight
former wide
end.
receiver.
Yeah, he is trying out for the Panthers as a tight end. He used to be a wide receiver for the Eagles. So this is just the bottom dregs of the news right here. Tryout players, Greg Mabin, don't know who he is. Oh, look, but you kind of look at the players they're trying to look at as cornerbacks here. What are you trying? Hey, maybe we find somebody that could do special teams is what I'm looking at. But it also probably tells us that they're not just in love with the tight end group behind Hayden Hurst. I wonder where is the Ian Thomas news in this? Have you heard Ian Thomas's name one time out of this new?
I don't want to hear Ian Thomas's name. How about
is he on the team still?
Who knows? Who cares?
I got paid. I think he's under contract.
He is. He's still on the team.
We didn't even want to extend him, but he was willing to take.
What if he gets coached finally?
He was willing to take a pay cut just to stick around.
But dude, I'm looking at this right here, and I'm saying it tells us about the position. I'm not going to hold my breath. I'm saying this, though, is that these players themselves are unimportant, but maybe, and I'm trying to stretch this into some conversation here, is maybe this tells us what the team is looking at for depth at a position group, or probably just trying to find special teams players at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just tryouts. I mean, this is not anything, to write home about. These aren't signings that they're making. These are just guys trying to make a roster. The Jordan Matthews one is an interesting one because I think he was considered a good wide receiver in this league at one point when he was on the Eagles squad a while back, but he's also older. And so I don't think that that's anything to that's worth discussing outside of maybe the potential of being here. But the Ian Thomas situation is one that's an interesting one, because this is very possibly a really important year for him. And the fact that he's not even in the conversation of anybody right now tells me that either this coaching staff views him equally as unbeneficial to this offense, or he is legitimately only valued in one way and one way only, and that is as a blocker, which has been the reason people have sold him as a good player for us, is his ability to block. I don't necessarily subscribe to that mindset, but
he was supposed to be a receiving tight end after his first season, right? Like he came out there and did all that. The thing that I think is great about the Ian Thomas story is it's almost like, who are you not talking about sometimes that I'm interested in?
Right.
And do you remember Matt Rule would just come out there and be like, he's the pro's pro, dude. He's like, this is the standard. And you're like, Ian Thomas? That's what it is. Like, he was like, they were trying to make him the face of the offense, it felt like, for the Panthers at one point. Not the face of the offense, but it was just like Matt Rule, which just always, remember, it was just Shaq Thompson and Ian Thomas. These are the guys. They come to, and we haven't heard Ian Thomas's name at all.
No,
maybe, and that's a great thing, maybe.
I mean, I think it is. I think it's going to be great for Tommy Tremble. I think Tremble is going to have. Listen, I said when his rookie year, we saw a few highlight plays of his, and I'm like, dude just seems different than what we'd had at tight end for a while. And I hold true to that. I think that this dude can, come out here and still perform at a high level. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he adds to this offense. I think he's going to get an actual opportunity, even with Hayden Hurst in the lineup. I think there's nothing to say that the dude can't have an opportunity to actually perform at a high level.
All right, what's next, Cody?
So up next, defensive line free agent Yannick Ngakoue.
Who the hell was his agent before? Oh, sorry.
I have no idea. But
just now getting Drew Rosenhaus?
Yeah, just now getting a brand new agent. And let me play this clip. There was a clip of Frank Reich, and he was talking about pass rusher. And
again, we all know it. We're all sitting there going, this is the place we have some concern. They're putting a lot of eggs in the Gross Matos basket, the Marquise Hayne basket.
Yep. So,
and this is also on the heels of someone else getting signed. Oh, Leonard Floyd. See what Frank Reich has to say here.
As a coach, I always think what we got is enough. Like, I love our guys. I love our team. But Scott's job is to, continually look and see
what is going on with Twitter tonight.
Right. We owe that to the team, right? We're trying to get better. And so that's part of the process. Right.
And there were pictures of Fitterer outside on his phone today. So it does seem as though they were kind of dropping hints like they might make a move. I don't know, man. It's like, I really think that they need to do something quick. Like, I want.
Why is it gotta be quick?
Because I want them to be a part of things. I want them to start learning now, learning our defensive identity now. All those types of things. That's important. And I would prefer to.
Well, as long as it's before training camp. And I think that's what Yannick Ngakoue and Jack, whatever. What's his name? Yannick Ngakoue. I think that he has said that he wants to be with a team before training camp. And that's pretty cool to hear from him, too. I think, you know what? I think he's saying this is, I don't want just a 1-year deal. And if I do get just a 1-year deal, I don't want to be put in a place where I'm not going to be able to actually thrive to get the multi-year deal the following year. So if you force me to sign a 1-year, kind of like a better than DJ Shark, say you give him a good 1-year paycheck, he doesn't want to come in there behind schedule to where that 1 year doesn't become a multi-year. So I think that's smart. And like, if you want to get something done, you call Drew Rosenhaus.
Yeah, dude, I've seen interviews with that dude. He really is smart as hell. Like the guy
Rosenhaus?
knows. Yeah, like
He
the
is
guy.
the guy. He's like, do you remember, what was it? Jeremy Piven was the agent and the movie star Entourage.
Yeah, Entourage.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like the Jeremy Piven of
kind of.
He started it. He started the business. I know people like to talk shit about Mel Kiper or whatever, but like he was doing he made the draft prognostication, like he made that a field in a way. Drew Rosenhaus is the first celebrity agent. Yep. Maybe not the first, but yeah, he's the celebrity. He is the top of his field. He is to agents as who's the guy Adam Schefter is to breaking
Insiders.
News. Yeah, inside exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll happen. I hope it does. I would prefer to add another name. But we'll see what happens.
It's got it. Well, but the problem is that's a great question. If it does happen, we talked about the Brian Burns need. Can you front load the deal and go and get a guy like him? We know that there's a desire to add that player. We talked about some of these last week, right? CK, while Cody was at the ballet, is some of these names that could be shopped out there.
Yeah.
And most of them are oldies, old heads, though, which then you're like, damn, at least Ngakoue gives you like the idea of like, hey, this player might have a future with the team instead of just having a player that's just a one and done type moment. But you need to, it's tough. And like, if you're Frank Reich too, you want to believe that you can get it done with YGM. We were watching that video of Brian Burns coaching up YGM. If you don't think that is worth shit, we definitely got to go do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is we've talked about best case scenario. Best case scenario is we don't have to add another person to this team, right? That these guys can all perform at a high level, and not have to worry about putting all that money into another player, and instead, like we said, roll over that into next year's cap, or like we talked about earlier, front loading the contracts of some of the guys coming up that you need to extend. I think that best case scenario is YGM pans out. Now, do we run with that based on the history of what YGM has been able to perform, at the level he's performed at, even when given an opportunity and an ample opportunity at that? I don't know if it's worth that risk.
Kev, I want my bastard son. I want you to call in and tell us about your Rosenhaus story about Tia. Rosenhaus always got, his wife is like flies. You're just like, this dude makes more money than anybody. He makes so many. Every one of those giant deals. We were talking about Ian Rappaport being, or Adam Schefter being the insider breaking news. Every time Schefter breaks news, he ain't making a big paycheck. Every time Rosenhaus breaks news, he is making some coin, dude. That dude has probably made fucking $1 billion off the NFL and NFL players by this point. What's up next, Cody?
Yeah, the final topic that we have for tonight, the final one that we have, and we're going to talk about some of the injuries. Because believe it or not, before the season has even started, they are already starting to build up.
Why is tell us about this? I didn't even know about this yet.
Well, yeah. So Dante Jackson, he's still recovering from his injuries.
Or what was it? An Achilles?
Yeah.
Is that what he had?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then Von Bell has an injured pectoral muscle that we're just finding out about too. Again, Frank Reich comes back to say that he's not worried about it too much, that they should be ready to go by the time training camp comes around. But we wanted to talk about Jaycee Horn for a minute because he's injured yet again. He was doing his own private workout, and I guess he stepped on his foot wrong or did something to hurt his
probably
something. But he's in a walking boot. So my question to you Is it time to panic? Is this problematic? What's going on with Jaycee Horn? And do you think it's time to push the panic button?
CK, we talked about this for a good minute on the Friday free for all, Cody and I, and we debated over whether or not Jaycee Horn was injury prone. Some people, and I don't know if it was you told me this, is that he might have been, and I don't know if this was on Tuesday's show last week that we had already heard about this, but is he unlucky? Is he injury prone? Is he just fucking unlucky? But what I am convinced is he's accident prone. I mean, if you call each one of these freak issue, like you're right,
at some point,
the Houston one, freak. He turf monster killed him, and then the one where the wrist last year and like got caught in the helmet or some shit. It's like a freak accident. He said this. I can't control broken bones. Freak. And he's accident prone. This motherfucker is gonna bang his elbow every time he walks. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're gonna be walking out the door hard, and he's always gonna be standing on the other side, getting hit in the head. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like you're getting out of work, and you're like, I'm ready to get out of this motherfucker, and you bust through that door, and fucking Jaycee Horn accident on the other side. He is ready to spill a bucket of paint at any moment.
I mean, listen, it's hard to argue that. I mean, it's hard to argue against it at this point in time. It'd be different if they were all the same injury, but they're not. They're all different injuries. And so to say that he's, if it was all ACLs, right, you go ahead and start being a little bit cautious about that. If they were all soft tissue issues, right, maybe we start to worry about the soft tissue stuff, right? But it's different types of injuries every time. And like you said, it does seem to be just an unlucky situation. But the problem is, as they stack up, it's impossible not to put that label on them. Like, even if they aren't associated with one another, it is absolutely impossible and honestly unfair to a lot of other players if we don't say Jaycee Horn is injury prone. Right now, there's no evidence to say that he's not.
Cody, can Jaycee Horn eat one meal in a white shirt without getting something on it?
I'm gonna say yes, man.
Yes,
and
he's not accident. No, he is a meatball dropping. You're gonna go out in a white shirt and go to an Italian restaurant. He's gonna go to Muscle Man. He's gonna go to Monster Subs and Grubs. He's gonna get the meatball sandwich. He's gonna be in a fresh white shirt, and Jaycee Horn gonna take the first bite, and the meatball gonna fall on his shirt.
Maybe, man.
Unlucky.
Listen, I'm not at the place where I want to freak out over this. I'm sorry, I just don't. It's not a good thing. I understand. And if he ends up being injury prone, he ends up being injury prone. But right now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, this type of shit happens. And one of the things that I think about JC, I think that he trains too hard in the off season. Like, I feel like when he has downtime, when you look at workouts that Jaycee Horn does, this man is flying around. Okay, jumping. Dude, the dude is a physical freak of nature. Okay, he was drafted as high as he was for a reason. And I feel like he needs to better learn how to take care of his body and learn how to train for the long haul.
You think he's got a Christian McCaffrey situation going?
Yeah, like he puts a little bit too much into these workouts, and I think it's to his detriment at this point.
I would agree, but I also disagree, because if they were all similar as far as soft tissue, like that was always the issue with CMC, is that he was always getting those soft tissue injuries that kept him out for 3-4 games at a time. Jaycee Horn is getting these injuries like broken bones and now sprained ankle.
This is the first one too, CK, that's been in a training session.
Right. Yeah. So I don't necessarily subscribe to that idea either, just because of the absolute variety. And the fact is that you don't get a broken, these broken, like they are just straight up fluke accidents, right?
Until this one's a rolling it over. And I think it comes back. You bring up a good point, Cody. And I always think when you say this, you said this when we were talking about Christian McCaffrey at one point, right? Is like, at what point is being the peak physical specimen to like where you've muscles are so strong they could snap at any moment, right? Where like, what's the line of that becoming a detriment in a way, or a danger? And that's what you're, and it always gets suspicious. When you bring up that comment, I always think of John Beeson coming off of, I think it was an Achilles, maybe it was a knee, I can't remember, but it was John Beeson's first injury, right? Thomas Davis had been the hurt one, and John Beeson was John Beeson was ready to be the next great linebacker for Carolina. And he actually turned out to be the one that struggled with injuries, and Thomas Davis comes back from it, which is wild.
Yeah.
But Beeson was coming off of this injury, and he posted, and it was very early in YouTube, Twitter shit, right? Like it was like, it's one of the earliest videos I remember of like getting a peek at a player doing his own thing. I don't know if it was face, but whatever it was. And he was training on the beach. I think he's from California, and he had this rubber band thing tied around him. And he was running up basically a giant resistance band his body was tied to. And he was running up these sand dunes. And you're like, holy fuck, John Beeson is healthy? Look at how great. And then boom, he continued to struggle with injuries after that. Again, you know, it's like I almost don't trust when you're coming off the injury and you post these videos of how great you look. I'm like, oh fuck.
So
Shit.
But like, when it comes to JC, like, dude, last season he broke his hand on a helmet.
Right.
Like, that was a freak fucking accident. How am I gonna count that towards JC being injury prone? Like, I'm just
every other player. If they were on any other team, you would agree that they were injury prone.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
I think there's plenty of people that you would look at their availability and say they've missed how many games, and that you wouldn't even care about the injury. You would see that whether they've played how many games that they've started in, and you would see
if you're just looking at the amount of games they missed, sure. But if you're looking at the context of what the injuries are, and
you wouldn't do that for a player on the Bucks,
and how they differ. But I'm saying, if you're asking me, I'm not making surface face value evaluations here. If I'm talking about a player, and if I'm going to call him injury prone, so for example, Dante Jackson always has a big toe hurt, always has his foot hurt.
He's played a full season. Jaycee Horn has never played a full season.
Right, but when you're consistently having the same types of injuries, to me, that's a problem.
Sure.
But
here's my question to you, Cody.
I'm not saying enough continuity in the injuries from Jaycee Horn for me to go, all right, this is a problem for him, rather than me saying what I did say earlier. I think that he trains too hard.
Is it the same injury are you being fair to Dante Jackson though? Because you just said this is that the same injury, and he's had turf toe, but now it's an Achilles. And they're not the same injury.
I mean, hey, your foot's connected to your Achilles.
Well, your hand is connected to your body. Like, I mean, it's not. Here's the thing.
Yeah, but you would generally classify lower body injuries.
Where is it the same foot? That would be the other question. Here's
my argument.
Toe in the same foot.
Here's my argument: is Cody, if we were getting ready to sign a cornerback, and you looked at their history, he's only got 3 years in the league. He was a high draft pick. He plays well, but he's only started in less than 50% of the games that he's able to because of injury. Would you not say, we're not going to give you a good contract? We might take a flyer on you, but we're going to take a 1-year deal as opposed to giving you a money deal, a long-term deal, or anything like that. That's what I mean. Like right now, if your answer is you would not sign him to a long-term deal because of the risk involved, for the fact that he has not been able to play through an entire season yet, then he's injury prone in your mind.
I mean, again,
Yes.
I'm not saying that
Both
it's
kind of
great.
have points, but
I'm not
CK is
saying
right.
that it's. I'm not saying that it's great. The injuries, yes, I just think injury prone is one of those things that we will label a player with too fast. Because I think in a player's career, players will go through stretches of health, continuous health, but they'll also have times where they'll have like a year or two or more sometimes where they're just banged up. Look at Thomas Davis. I mean, tore the same ACL 3 times, and they would go on to have an incredible career for the Panthers.
Absolutely.
So,
but
listen,
he got the benefit of the doubt on that. Most people don't get that. And he would be considered injury prone at that point in time. He didn't sign a massive contract after that. Like, he honestly, if he didn't get a second chance in by Dave Gettleman and Ron Rivera, he wouldn't have made any type of the money that he was making. He would not be considered a great player of Carolina Panthers history. He wouldn't have gone on to be, he wouldn't have been given a shot anywhere else like he was here. So, I mean, I agree. I think that I want Horn to work out. I love Horn. And honestly, if you want to look at the, trending of it, he played in 3 games his rookie season. He played in 12 games or 13 games or am I wrong in that? In his second season. And now if this sprain or whatever he did to his ankle is the most that he's going to have this year, then we're looking like, golden. Hopefully he's just constantly getting better and better, and his body's getting more, more strengthened as we go. But as of right now, the history doesn't look good for Jaycee Horn so far. I'm hoping that it changes though.
I think, Cody, you give more benefit of the doubt to Jaycee Horn than you do to Dante Jackson, and you're gonna be like, oh, look at these 5 games. He was the fucking best in the sport. Well, he's a top 10 pick. He should be that good. And Dante Jackson is undersized speed. Like at least Dante Jackson has had some semblance of a season together that was available. Like, and I think and so it stinks. He's accident prone, man. How about this? If Jaycee Horn can't put together like this season is kind of critical for him.
Yes,
if he's hurt this year, it's like you got to be
critical for them.
If he's injured this year,
you're not putting a 5th-year option on it. Or
no doubt.
And
that's what. Listen, I'm definitely not saying that there's there's nothing to see here. He's obviously been injured. What I'm saying is that this year is going to be the year that kind of determines whether or not
it just sucks that it started with an injury.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally started with an injury.
It started with an injury, but I'm also
he'll be there for
thinking,
training camp too.
If he's able to make it through training camp and make it through the season, then it's like this whole conversation is for nothing.
I agree.
And by the way, he led our team in interceptions last year.
When he's out there, he's not bad.
I think he was
he's a
by and
shutdown
large.
He's good.
Yeah, his numbers speak for themselves. I mean, if he's capable of staying healthy, the only thing you worry about is as long as these injuries don't start to hinder his athleticism as he goes, then Jaycee Horn is a stud, and I'm happy that he's on our team. I think it's only fair to have that conversation about injury and not just write it off as fluke because of the fact that it is consistently now for 3 years at this point.
We're going to have a long time to talk about this Jaycee Horn thing, but you also have to think this, Cody, is if he comes out, what if he's hurt this year, right? Like, what if he just is nicked up? And then next year, so you wouldn't have to pick up his 4th, 5th-year option this year. It's next year you have to start thinking about it.
Yeah, you have to do it before his 4th year.
So what happens say he's nicked up this year and you're like, damn, again, it's an accident. Like, is he? And then next year he balls out. Like, and he is what you wanted. He has a good season. Like, he's there all year. And now you're like, do you pay him? Would you, like, all of a sudden is one season going to override the other 3 sample set? Boy, what a tough position to be in as a GM there.
Yeah. Jeremy Chin could do that this year. If Jeremy Chin has an incredible year this year, that's kind of the same thing.
Well, he hasn't been hurt like this, though. I'm just saying, is like, I wonder if you would if you would have verification bias if Jaycee Horn was hurt this year, but then again next year he was like, he finally had a great seat, like he finally was there, and now you got to pay him. What if you had to pay him prematurely? I guess is what it's like. You're actually basing it again, verification bias. But anyway, we'll have plenty of time to talk about Jaycee Horn and his role with the Carolina Panthers this year and next year. Let's go ahead and move on with the show. Where are we at?
Let's do that. You know what? We are ready to listen to these Panther fans. Time to listen to some cat calls. The number is 252-228-5098. Let your voice be heard on the C3 Panthers podcast. Let's get it.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
What's up, C3? It's Anthony from Charlotte. Hope y'all are having a good day. Another week, kind of slow in Panthers Nation with news, but I did catch a couple stuff from Frank Reich's press conference today and the practice footage we got. So first things first, before anyone freaks out, Bryce Young had a batted ball today, but also Andy Dalton did as well, who is 6'2". So let me tell you why these balls keep getting batted down. It's not because of the quarterbacks. It's because of our new nose tackle, Shy Tuttle. That's his specialty. He's very good at batting balls down, blocking kicks, doing all those little things. That's probably another thing that goes along with his, he doesn't get sacks, but he's good in the run and he's good with those small little details. So just wanted to point that out to make sure everyone understood that. Also, Brian Burns was speaking, before I get to Frank Reich, Brian Burns was speaking about Bryce Young today. He said he likes him. He said he's humble, but he knows he's the shit. And I think that's a great way to describe how Bryce Young is. I think he comes across as like a quiet Cam Newton. Like Cam Newton would just be talking and tell everyone he's the shit. But Bryce Young's going to show you he's the shit through the work he does on the practice field. And Brian also said that he plays like at game speed in practice. And he said that's when you know like a player's going to perform in the game. So I really like that as well. Moving on to what I really want to talk about, though, Frank Reich today was, asked a bunch in the press conference, Bryce Young, wide receivers, different stuff like that. On the defensive side, there's a couple injuries, but they're not long-term or surgical. He did say, when asked about the DNs, he said, listen, I like the guys we have on our roster, but Scott Fitter's in charge of building up this roster and making it better any way he can. And not coincidentally, Scott Fitter's shown on the phone talking to someone while at practice. Now, last time he was doing this, DJ Chark was signed in the coming hours, or I think it was the next day. My guess is he's looking to add another edge rusher. Let me get your thoughts on that. Do you think we'll add another edge rusher? Because I think the Panthers know they need to as well. It's been Anthony from Charlotte. You already know the vibes. C3, keep motherfucking pounding.
Hey, keep pounding. I don't know, man. Like it's to the point where I feel like Fitterer, I take him at his word when he says in on every deal. So, yeah, I think that he's inquiring about all of them. And I don't think Frank Reich would have dropped that tidbit about, Fitterer is the guy in charge of all of that and stuff like that. Like leaving the door open for something like that to happen. So, yeah, I do think that it could happen, but I don't know for sure that it will. There is a part of me that feels like they're just going to run with the guys that they have on the roster, as much as we might hit that. Like Marquise Haynes, YGM, I know people don't want to hear that, but I mean, I'm not
get
sure.
everything we want. And what I mean by this is, in one hand, we had earlier some good comments about let's front load the Brian Burns deal. And so that we can have, and I'm part of this, right, is so we can have flexibility in year 2 and 3 for Bryce Young instead of just now. But then you have the idea of, well, maybe we should then take the money we have right now as the second most in cap space in the NFL currently, I believe, and use that money to address a critical need on the team. And then you have a third angle where some people are now saying, when we talked a little bit about this last week, is like the potential of trading for a player.
Right.
We're going to talk about this in the news. Actually, if you could flip real quick to the news slide of this, is that Danielle Hunter, aka Danielle. Danielle Hunter could potentially, who has been talked about in trade rumors. We talked about Chase Young last week. Now he could be coming back to Minnesota, but then you have a third component of people that are now out there talking about, like, hey, we talked about signing DeAndre Hopkins, and then now, to me, is the wild idea is the idea: could you legitimately trade for a player? And then you're like, holy shit, we don't have a pick next year. So my point being is all of these things alone, except for the trading one for me, I don't know if we really have the assets to be trading away.
We
like
can't.
shit.
No,
Like,
if
I
we're
mean, like,
gonna-
we kind
if
of
we're
need
not-
the draft picks. I'd
if
rather
you're gonna
have
have
less
to give
draft
up-
picks, but good ones.
If you're going to have to give up a second round draft pick, that would leave us without a first and a second.
Yeah, no, we just talked about needing to build this team up and be a young team. This isn't the answer, is constantly trading. I know everybody's got that F them picks mentality, but right now the Rams are not in a good spot because they've had 1 year of being able to do that and be successful.
They were still trying to trade 2 away last year.
I know. And like it's at this point in time, I'm not of the mind. I don't want to be that team that's just going for 1 year wonders. I mean, or 1 year of success, and now all of a sudden I'm risking the ability to get a superstar who's going to have 10 years, 15 years of being a Carolina Panther. I would rather us draft well and go that route. Maybe get a 1 year deal on one of these guys that are coming out right now, or get the people that we plan on paying, like Brian Burns, taken care of early.
We just are not going to be able to do all of them.
Right.
And that is the idea, is like, if you want to go out and get DeAndre Hopkins, or you want to go out and get Ngakoue or whoever, just whatever you want to spend it, we got to spend it on defensive end. You can't do that and front load Brian Burns' contract and get something, you know what I'm saying? Like, is like, there's going to be, you can maybe get 2 out of 3. I hate we can't trade away any more assets. I just don't.
No.
That's like the one I just don't even want to hear about. But that's it. The number's 252. Do you guys have anything else to say about Anthony's call before we move on?
No.
All right. The number's 252-228-5098. Next call.
What's up, C3? It's JJ calling in again.
What up, JJ?
And I wanted to do some ice ups this week. Really, I just wanted to ice up myself because for joking reasons, of course. But like last week, Tony, after I went on my call, was like, that's JJ, new family member, whatever, to C3, who really just fit in or blended in, yada yada. And then he was like, he's like our little brother. And I was like, damn, I'm turning 20 this year, and he calling me a little bro? Shit, I gotta put some bass in my voice, because I noticed I was always really just talking slow, or I guess
we're all old, JJ.
What to say, but
yeah, this is less
I
to do
also
with
wanted
you
to
than
say,
more to do
in
about
terms
me.
of like the Friday free for all. I mean, like I was for the most part, I wasn't really serious when I said Bryce Young was gonna be better than Cam Newton. I really just said that to be optimistic. I felt like saying it because eventually someone else was going to say it regardless if I said it. Like, G-Baby was going to get up there Anthony was gonna say it didn't really matter. but I also got a challenge, a bet with G Baby. I need to make. Yeah, I'm calling at you, G. I'm calling out your name. Listen up. You always be wanting to shit on Brian Burns, and we be talking about how much sacks is he gonna get all the time. I'm finna bet you if you willing to bet, I'm gonna put a big amount. I'll hit you up that Brian Burns is gonna set a career high in sacks again, and I have no reason to believe he won't. He's getting 13 plus this year. Brian Burns is the man. I'm sure Cody was hyped about that shit too, because he knows Brian Burns is the man. Keep pounding C3. Like, comment, subscribe, and use code C3 on Prize Picks. Whenever you go and fucking use Prize Picks again, because the season over. Shout out Jokic. All right, C3. Keep pounding.
I remember when you said that on the show. And it really got people debating.
Twan off. Twan got on the show.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, that's what the Friday free for all is, man.
Yeah.
Y'all gotta join on Fridays. It gets lit in the Friday free for all, man. But basically, yeah, right.
That set off a great discussion, and it is. And sometimes this is like it's not even about it being right or wrong. Is like that is a talking point to just go on a real discussion about the team. It's just like, hey, about the fan base. It will take you on a different roller coaster of emotions to do that. It would be like if we got a linebacker who was some people showing signs of being as good or better than Luke Kuechly. And whether or not it's true or not, if you just said, oh, this guy's better than Luke Kuechly, it will take off. You'll talk about concussions in the NFL. Right. You'll talk about what was going on in your life. That was, and that discussion went wild, Cody.
I think,
man, because so many passionate fans on both sides now. Bryce,
lovely.
And,
what a good talking
us,
point.
And us former cam sexuals, So it's like when you, and this is what I said. No matter how good Bryce is, I'm not going to do the revisionist history where I go back and just shit on Cam Newton do the comparisons. Because I know fans are going to do that, right? Like if he balls the fuck out, which I do anticipate him doing. I just said that earlier today. I'm not going to retroactively go back and be like, oh, dude, Cam could never do that type of shit. Because if he could or couldn't, it's beside the point. One of the things that we were arguing for years is that this Panthers organization refused to build around Cam Newton in the proper fashion. They never gave him the proper offensive line, like you said earlier with Gettleman, Tony. We never had the big name wide receiver talent like a lot of these top quarterbacks in the NFL do. And I'm just not going to go back and do the revisionist stuff to shit all over Cam Newton,
right?
Just to make Bryce look better than he is. Like,
sure, that's the same
Cam
thing.
is a part of our past, and I'm not just going to abandon him because we're living in the present with Bryce Young.
Isn't that kind of the what happens with like the LeBron and Jordan debate? And I'm not saying greatest of all time with Cam Newton, but just because you have a preference over one or the other, you want to diminish the value that a player had to his team, right? The thing is like we talk about Bryce possibly being better than Cam Newton. That doesn't mean Cam Newton wasn't good. We are in a league that is constantly upgrading or becoming more and more talented to where you have to ask the question, are the people that we consider the all-time greats even capable of playing in a league like it is today, right? Because of the advancements in technology and all that stuff. Like everybody, like we talk about Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady's the greatest of all time. Well, guess what? Patrick Mahomes is knocking on the door right now, right? As being the greatest of all time. He's got 2 Super Bowls. He's still very young for a quarterback. And the dude just plays has been lights out his entire career, not just for, the back half of it. He started out his career incredible, right? But Tom Brady is going to largely be considered the greatest of all time. That doesn't mean Tom Brady wasn't a good player when Patrick Mahomes surpasses him. It just means that Patrick Mahomes was that much more incredible. Every single position gets better. When we say that we want somebody to be like a Luke, like a Luke type player, or better than Luke, it's not because we think Luke was garbage. It's because we want these players are constantly getting better. They're constantly becoming more athletic. They're getting faster, stronger, and bigger. I think it's fair to expect that. And it doesn't diminish what the other players have given to the franchise.
All can be true too. And the thing that Cody says a lot, all can be true. Someone can turn out to be a better player. I almost think of like someone like a Steve Smith, a Julius Peppers, a Cam Newton, a Luke Kuechly, as being similar to the person you lost your virginity to.
Yeah.
And
your first times.
Well, there was something, at least like my experience was good, right? Like, and it was like there was something, you had some sort of first real connection with somebody. I bet this is that, like, if I wonder, this is like what the person you lost your, like, you would probably always, it must be a pheromone thing. Like, I think I would honestly, 30 years later, I don't think it would be the worst again. So what I mean by that is I ain't going to base my whole life around it. I'm just saying this is Cam played, Julius Peppers, Steve Smith, they played an important part in my life, like the girl I lost my virginity to. Played an important part in my life. Cody, we're going to go on to the next goal.
Yep.
Also, C3 is DJ calling again. Had a quick thing I wanted to mention about like Bryce Young and how he's going to do this year. I think it really all just depends how the coaches are. I mean, we've always had talented players that were talented enough and good enough to get us 5 to 7 wins over the past couple of years. It really is going to reflect on how well our coaching staff puts these players in a position to win. And it's going to reflect more so on the coaches this year than I think the players themselves, considering this new coaching regime. So let me tell y'all, or let me hear how y'all feel about that, whether y'all feel this next season is going to be more of an indictment on the coaching staff or the players that we have at hand, how, like,
Neither.
whether we're talented enough to make the playoffs or something like that. And I mean, we all know Bryce Young going to have like 3,700 yards and like fucking 20 plus touchdowns and hopefully less than 10 interceptions. That's the bet. And of course, Mingo Magic all season. Hey, I'm coming in here. I'm coming in here with the heat when Mingo gets that 100-yard game. Y'all don't want to catch me like that.
I'll tell you this, Tony. I disagree. I don't think that everybody gets a free pass this year.
No, not the coaches.
I mean, the coaches
who doesn't get a free pass, actually.
I wouldn't necessarily say the coaches don't get a free pass. I think a lot of the coaches are still going to have a free pass in a large way. Now, if our defense absolutely blows, I mean, I think there might have to be some accountability in this coaching staff this year. But outside of that, I think the players. I don't think there's a few players that have no free pass whatsoever. It doesn't matter how well or bad we do. Or if you can blame it on our offense, not being up to par or what. But you got guys like Taylor Moton. You have guys like Ian Thomas. You have guys that like Jeremy Chin right now playing in a very big role, like big year. Like if he doesn't perform, regardless of whether we can blame it on our new coordinators or not, these guys are all going to be held accountable for that. So I don't think anybody gets a free pass at this point.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you guys about a Black Mirror. I hate that show, but I'm going back, and now my friend has convinced me I have to watch it. I said I will never watch the first episode of Black Mirror again, but every episode's supposed to be completely different. And I just watched this one where it said your whole life or something. It's the first season, and your eyeballs were recorders, and you could go back and watch your memories like television. And they were going back and looking at their own highlights. Like I'll go and look at YouTube highlights, like of Julius Peppers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking at their own highlights in life. They were like, oh, remember that Friday night I went home with that lady?
Yeah.
Let me go rewatch that shit. So when we're talking about the going back of what Julius Peppers, what Cam Newton was, imagine if you can go watch your own highlights rather than the YouTubes. Would it be better? Next call.
Hey, pause it real quick.
Hey, what's up, C3?
Yeah,
Dominic again, calling it.
Yeah, I'm gonna dip out real quick. I'm gonna let Tony and CK carry the rest of the night. I will be back this Friday, 7 p.m. for the Friday free for all.
Record it with your eyeballs for me.
Yeah, I will. All right, hey, peace and love, everybody. Have a great night, and y'all keep pounding.
All right, literally. Next call. Hey,
It won't be long.
Hello.
But, man, honestly, I forgot to point out one person on the defensive side. And I'm telling you, Jamie Robinson, keep an eye out on him this year, man. I'm telling you, the man looks hungry. He's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. I think that man's really going to be something serious, man. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure he's going to be on the field. Not saying he might be the starter, but he's definitely going to be on the field. No doubt about that. So, yeah, man, I'm excited about this defense, man. Amari Barno, think he's going to have a good impact on this team. Speed, come off that edge quick. And, yeah, and then like Cody said, I know Cody's high on Brandon Smith, man. I really think this dude is going to step up. But, I mean, you know, we got to see. Wait till week 1, see how that goes, see how the product is on the field. But other than that, I think this defense is going to be in good shape. Outside of our banged-up corners, man. But other than that, I think we're going to be pretty good, man. I think we're going to be pretty solid. So, yeah. So, appreciate you, C3. Take care.
Every time someone mentions Brandon Smith, even Cody, I go, oh, yeah, that guy's on the team.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I never remember him.
He had some big plays. I mean, I think he got hurt last year, too, though. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he have a few injuries or at least one injury? I mean, I think he was able to play some of the defense, and I think he had some big time stops. But maybe I'm thinking about the other guy because it was
every time someone says Barno,
yeah,
and Brandon, like I'm like, oh yeah, they're on the team. So yeah, we need one of those guys. Cody likes him a lot, so we do need. It would be nice. We're gonna for us to be good. Is for us right now. We've talked about the optimism we've had throughout everything at this whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For that optimism to become reality, you're going to have people excel beyond their position. You're going to need a Brandon, somebody. Maybe it's Lou. You know who is? There's going to have to be somebody that we're not really seeing that turns out to be very good. So maybe it's Brandon Smith. Maybe it's Frankie Louvu. Maybe it's Amari Barno. Maybe it's YGM. Please, one of them. Damn it.
Goodness, please. Yeah.
Next call.
Hey, guys. It's the girl that makes them howl, a.k.a. Joey the Blind Panther. I haven't called in for a while because, I mean, the off-season's so dead it's been shutting my ass up. But you didn't think nothing was going to shut me up for long, did you? Okay, you did good. You ain't stupid. But you talking about Tommy Tremble saying things that they were never coached up about passing concepts and shit. And you know what? Tommy Tremble showed flashes even when Matt fucking Fool was here, you know, being an idiot. You know, causing Panther traumatic stress disorder. Matter of fact, I was on paratransit, and they had me go. But I was like 2 miles from my house. They had us backtrack to where I was 5 or 6 miles from my house. Then pass another person's stop, and I said, "Well, damn, this done triggered my Panther traumatic stress disorder because these dispatchers can't run routes as good as Matt Rule's right wide receivers can, and they suck." But yeah, it's no surprise to me that Matt Fool and his bunch of cronies, bunch of idiots, weren't coaching them up right to do to do what they needed to do. And you know what? We owe Teddy Bridgewater an apology because he was right about one thing. They didn't practice red zone. And you know what? Teddy, you wasn't the right fit for us. You weren't what everybody thought you were going to be. You were coming into a tough situation, filling in the shoes of perhaps the greatest quarterback that the Panthers have ever had. Teddy, you were right. Matt Rule wasn't teaching you shit. But, you know, you live and you learn, I guess. Teddy's bouncing around the league back with his hometown team in Miami. But, yeah, I'm so excited now. Like, now that people like Tommy Tremble, TMJ, all those people that were showing flashes, I'm so excited now that they're being coached up. They've gotten around real NFL coaching. And maybe, just maybe, Ty Smith will be really good so that I can continue to see his hot-ass cousin every year at FanFest. Anyway, guys.
Well, can you see her?
Wow.
Joey can't see her, actually. Wakanda forever. Love you, Joey. Next call.
Hey, what's good, fellas? It's Corey calling in. Wanted to give a little take, just something that's been on my mind in the last few days when it comes to the Panthers and making moves, stuff like that. Obviously, this offseason, I feel like the biggest moves that we made are already going to be made. You know what I'm saying? But I just mean just like in general. It's something I've been noticing. But okay, matter of fact, I'm talking in circles. Let me get to one point. So right, obviously, Daniil Hunter is looking to be he's look like he's available, right, for the right price. And I'm seeing discourse on Twitter, people like, should we trade for him? Should we not? And a whole lot of Panthers fans are saying no because he's looking for another contract. And obviously, we got Brian Burns still looming in the near future. But I just want to say, man, when we're talking about stacking up with talent and getting premier players on this team, which that's what Daniil Hunter is. Whether I don't know if people realize it or not, but this dude's a fucking beast. He got a major injury 2 years ago, played 5 games before last, and then played a full season this past year. His first full healthy season back, he got 10 sacks after having, I think, 12 sacks the 2 healthy seasons prior, back-to-back years. And he's just coming into it. He's 27, 28 years old now. So he's a stud, right? Would love to have him on the team. But people are saying they're a little bit, hesitant because he's going to command a big contract. And it's like, y'all, this is a time frame now where the Panthers should be willing to give out these big contracts for the right player, mind you. That doesn't mean we should overpay for, good players, but give them overpay just so they can get them on the team. But if we have somebody that's premier talent that's available for us, and all we got to do is sign to a big deal, this is the time where we can do that, right? Well, obviously, we got Brian Burns' contract coming up. That's our main priority. Other than him, Taylor Moton's cap hit is going to go up crazy next year, but there's really nothing that's locking us to it, man. We got Bryce Young for 5 years on a rookie deal, man. This is the time where we need to surround him with talent. Yeah. Now, obviously, I know we got Jeremy Chin, we got Jaycee Horn, Derek Brown, Ike Ekwonu, right? Dickey's another guy where we got another 4 years of him for cheap. But these aren't guys that are all going to reset the market with their and I know we love him as Panthers fans, but Jeremy Chin isn't going to, demand top six. I don't presume he would, right? He could ball out this year. I don't know what the market is around the league and stuff like that. But all I'm saying is, man, when it comes to getting these players, this is the time now we can be aggressive. I'm finna run out of time. Hopefully I can get part 2 on, but yeah, you kind of appreciate y'all.
Thank you for the call. That was Corey. Here's a bit of trivia for you, CK, and I'll ask the chat room this. Is in 1995, the Panthers became the first NFL expansion team to defeat a reigning Super Bowl champion when they beat what team 13-7 on the road in week 10. So what we have to do to get this answer, we have to think of who was the Super Bowl champion in 1994. Put that out there for you guys to think about. Next, here, a fun fact for the Carolina Panthers. Midway through the 2021 season, Christian McCaffrey became just the 4th player and the first running back to catch 350 career passes. So I guess he would be close. Is it the 4th all time in receptions? Interesting. So we're thinking about who was the Super Bowl champion in 90. What did I say? 94. And this is a tough one. It's a tough trivia. I'm going to play the next call as you guys think about this. What reserve running back averaged a team leading 29.8 yards on 10 kickoff returns for the 2020 Panthers? That one, a reserve, who is a backup running back in 2020 who had an almost average 30 yards for kickoffs. Let's go to the next call. Let's see. Last one of the night, too.
Hey, what's up, man? Part 2 of Corey's call. I'll be quick. My main point being that money should not be the reason why we don't pull the trigger on these big moves. Now, say again, it's got to be for the right player. I'm not in the camp of overpaying for a guy simply because we have it. But when you got your guy on a rookie deal, obviously Bryce is yet to play. But if he is the guy that we hope he is, this is the time where we want to stack talent around him because we're going to have him for the cheap. Because as soon as that 5th-year option is up and we got to sign him, to a big deal, if he's the guy we think is going to be, fucking 30% of our cap is going straight to him anyway, right? So, again, I know we got these young guys. We got Derek Brown, Jeremy Chin, Jaycee Horn, who have contracts on the horizon, but that's still a few years down the line. And, again, we can't be out here playing scared because what we don't want to happen is be 2-3 years into Bryce Young's career still looking at his receiver core and saying, damn, Bryce is good, but he could be a whole lot better if we give him a real number 1 receiver, right? And obviously those things come through the draft as well. We got young guys. But again, man, it takes a big splash of creativity. It takes those different makers. So yeah, man, Brian Burns is gonna get a big deal. That's what happens when you draft somebody in the first round and they end up being a great player. Yep. But I'm just saying, basically scary money don't make no money, man. Let's go out, let's do this shit. Obviously this offseason isn't, notwithstanding, but if the guys are out there to be had and we got to throw some money at them, that's exactly what we need to do because there's nothing else really tying us back right now. I think we're I don't know, Panthers fans are a little like I don't know, just got PTSD when it comes to these contracts or, whatever it is, right? But we're not paying DJ Moore anymore. We're not paying Christian McCaffrey. We got a clean slate right now. So now's the time to stack up the talent. But let me know what y'all think, man. I don't really have like a huge crazy take or anything like that, but
that was a good call.
This is my main point. Yeah. Scare money don't make no money.
Very, very good call. In fact, I would probably say that's the best call of the night, in my opinion. But we continue and we just think about this is we're all sitting here. We talked about a lot of different options, whether you go out and sign this person in free agency, that person, if you trade and all of these things. And it's going to seem hard for you to have everything, right? It's like going to the store as a kid and you just can't get every scoop of ice cream. You're like, hey, you can get 3 scoops and you can switch whatever ones it can be your combo, but you can't get every scoop. And the idea just going is like, I just want to be cautious. I know he said scare money don't make money, but maybe the money to be betting is next year. And can we get Brian Burns, make him an anchor? We have Thielen on a 3-year deal. We have Miles Sanders on a 3-year deal. We got Hayden Hurst or 5-year deal. We got Hayden Hurst on we're not the players. If they're good this year, they're also going to be there next year. Is this year just a year that we're going to get excited and attract some people and attract some attention to Carolina and next year be the year? I just don't know if I want to pay everything for this season and it still be a bunch of rookies.
Right. Well, here's the thing I agree with. One of the things he said is, if we're just talking about money, then sign one of these guys, right? Get one of these guys. Like when we start talking about adding draft capital,
oh man,
or trading people away, that's when it's too rich for me. Like I don't care the draft capital we're talking about, right? If it's anybody that's worth their salt, we're talking about too much if we're gonna have to trade for them. period. If we're talking about Ngakoue and trying to get him in here to try to patch a hole on this defensive line for 1 year in hopes that maybe he turns it out, then I'm fine with that. The other piece to this is if we can get through this year and even be have semblance of actual like a good offense and defense, like we're on our way. That's going to attract, and if Bryce Young comes out here and he balls out his rookie year, that's going to attract a lot of people here to the Panthers. And they're, potentially, I shouldn't say that's going to, but potentially could attract people to the Panthers and maybe not cost as much, right? There's a lot of times you see these people, they talk about they got offers from other places, but they wanted to go to a contender. And I think the Panthers have been out of that conversation for so long that we don't know what that feels like to have somebody want to come to the Panthers because we're, a contender, and be willing to take a pay cut to do so.
I asked earlier, in 1995, the Panthers became the first NFL expansion team to defeat a reigning Super Bowl champion when they beat what team 13-7 on the road in week 10.
I was thinking either the Redskins or the Cowboys.
Tim Estes was right. The San Francisco 49ers. I wonder if that was a Steve Young team. 95, or was that Jeff Garcia didn't win no damn Super Bowl.
It was either yeah, that would have probably been Steve Young.
All right, I also asked this one's tough. What reserve running back averaged a team leading 29.8 yards on 10 kickoff returns for the Panthers in 2020?
You're gonna kill me with this answer. I know, like it's gonna be like I want to. It's the Blackshear type of player.
I don't even remember it. Yeah, I mean, at least I remember his name. I don't remember this guy at all. Trenton Cannon.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
I don't even remember him.
Cannon. Yeah, I remember because we were talking about the cannon.
All right. Here we got my. Go ahead.
He did a really good job on those returns. That might have been one of the. Did he get hurt that year? Maybe.
2020 would have been Matt Rule's rookie season as coach. Kevin called in real quick to tell us about Drew Rosenhaus.
Hey, Tony, it's White Sox Espresso. Listen, man, I tried to find the video of Terrell Owens laughing at Drew Rosenhaus behind his back, and I can't find it anywhere. It's crazy. It's like been scrubbed from the internet. Like I remember seeing it like on the Best Damn Sports Show, period, like a long time ago. And I believe it was the Next Question interview when he was always saying next question. But I can't find anything. I found people talking about it, but can't find a video. But here it goes. Basically, taking all the questions, and one of the reporters asked, "Hey, what have you done for Drew? What have you done for T.O. besides getting him suspended from the team?" Drew Rosenhaus says, "Next question." T.O. is looking at the ground while the reporter asked that, and then after he asked that, he kind of looks up at the reporter with a smirk, laughs, winks, and then points at him. I swear to God that happened. It's the funniest thing. They had it on Best Damn Sports Show, period. I can't believe I can't find any video whatsoever. It's fucking crazy. But that's what
yeah, man, speaking of scrub from the internet, I think the 2020 season has been scrubbed from my brain. CK, here's another one, and I didn't want to keep going with this. I got only two small ones that just stuck out to me. This has been scrubbed like Trenton Cannon from my brain. Who was the only player to return a punt for the Panthers in the 2020 season?
I don't know.
This is wild. I don't remember. I barely remember this part. This name actually, I may have heard before. Trenton Cannon, I don't remember him at all. Sounds like a damn bebop star or something to me. The only player to return a punt for the Panthers in the 2020 season. Where is this guy at? Pharaoh Cooper.
Oh,
yeah, I remember the name. I remember his name more than I remember the
big name that we. Hold on,
Pharaoh Cooper. I'm telling you, I think the 2020 season has been scrubbed from my brain. I think I got like what is it? The Men in Black, or I've got some PTSD about 2020. I don't remember any of it. I mean, I barely remember that name.
Didn't he?
Pharaoh
was
Cooper.
He one of? Was he?
He averaged 5.9 yards on
But
20
didn't we sign him as like a big time special team player that year? Like, wasn't he supposed to be the guy?
I don't remember any of this. I'm telling you.
Professional career. He was with the Rams, the Cardinals, the Bengals, and the Cardinals again, and then he came to us. So he was just
came from the Cardinals. Okay, I might remember that.
He was a Pro Bowler. He was selected in to the Pro Bowl in 2017 as a return specialist.
Here's the last one I'm gonna give you, and this is one that we should be able to get. And I can't even remember this, but this is late in the show. What uniform number did longtime starting defensive end Charles Johnson wear for the Panthers?
58 or 98? 98.
98? Sounds like a D tackle number. 90 Peppers.
95.
Sideshow Rob got it. 95.
Yeah, that's it. I saw that and immediately I was like, yep, that's it. That's it.
Big money.
We should have known that because Rihanna was wearing that jersey.
Was she?
Yeah, because it's Derek
Charles
Brown's
Johnson?
number 2.
That's right. It was Derek Brown. Oh, man, imagine if Rihanna was wearing the what if that was a Kerry Collins jersey?
What if it was the Brian Burns
That would've
jersey
been
and now
awesome.
it's 0 and it's all pointless?
It is those shirts that we talked about roaming around some country.
Oh, yeah.
Where you expect people to not have, but living on one handful of rice a day or whatever. So that's the C3 Panthers podcast. We got one last segment. Oh, did you find it?
I found something about it.
This is Drew Rosenhaus on Next Question. Here, I'm going to share it. We'll see what they said about this a moment. Although he had only played 1 year into a 7-year, $48.6 million contract, Terrell felt like he had outperformed his contract.
Oh, this is about this is a book he wrote called Next Question. So it had to have happened. It had to have happened. If he wrote a book about this being Next Question, that tells me like he knows that this was something
scrubbed from the internet, like Pharaoh Cooper and Trenton Cannon of my brain. All right, that's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday. Oh no, we didn't do the news real quick? Well, that's the show. I don't know if there's anything else. Stephon Diggs. You hear about that?
I heard that he left the mini camp early. I don't know the details behind it though.
That's it. Like, as you have some people, I don't know. Who knows what is? Let me see. I'll show you this. We got it in the show. The last thing
says McDermott is very concerned that Diggs is not at minicamp.
Is this the old show? Let's see. Cody left. This is the wrong presentation. Is it not in order here? Anyway, the Saga, I sent him the message. He was there yesterday. First of all, this is mandatory right now. Is like it's the mandatory minicamp or whatever. So, and he was there yesterday and he left. And then he's posting on IG saying everybody don't know what they're talking about. Von Miller says he's with him. Josh Allen says I go to war with him. Josh Allen's smart. He knows where his bread's buttered when it comes to, you got to keep the receiver, the diva receiver, happy. And then the only other bit of news was, why did I not get the presentation that I made? So you got Stephon Diggs. Oh, Joe Burrow says this, and this is great. Joe Burrow is the man. I love Joe Burrow. He's ice cold. He said, I don't think they asked about who's the world's best quarterback right now. And he said this, I don't think there's any argument. It's Patrick Mahomes. Until someone has a better year than he's had, he's the one to knock off.
Right.
Joe Burrow's going after that money. He's ice cold. He's cool as can be. That's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. It's a long running show. Even when we got nothing to talk about, we pass 3 hours. We've got one final segment, the longest running segment on the longest running podcast, on the longest running Tuesday you've ever been a part about. Let's ice some fools up.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
It's our homage to Steve Smith, where we tell someone to ice up, toughen up to get it together. Everyone is fair game. The world is your oyster, CK.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a ice up pick?
I got 2, and one just came into me about 30 seconds ago. So
okay.
I had to.
Love it.
You want to go first or what?
No, I want you to go first.
All right. 2 of mine. The first one is going to be my original one, and this is around because I'm did the streaming thing for a little while, and we've largely, I think many people would agree that cancel culture is just an absolute, the majority of the world agrees it's absolute lunacy. So I'll tell you about a couple of streamers. There's a guy named Tim the Tatman and another guy, Nick Merckx. They're 2 of the biggest streamers in the entire world. $1 million, make millions probably monthly, to be quite honest with you. Right. And I'm not feeling sorry for these guys. Don't get me wrong. Like they're making their money, but they have worked their asses off. Right. They're streamers. Right. I mean, streamers is not easy. I mean, streaming's not a lot of people think it's an easy gig. It's not an easy gig. You put a lot of work, a lot of hours in that you don't put on stream
too.
Right. You do have to be talented. And so these guys have finally gotten an operator in, like, basically they've gotten their own operator in the game of Call of Duty. So basically you could buy a bundle that has, like, basically you can play as Nick Merckx in Call of Duty or Tim the Tatman in Call of Duty.
Loadout or something, or his skin.
His skin, like his look. You've got his look,
okay,
like he's
cool.
scanned.
They've made it like the game recognized it.
Right, exactly. Well, there was a whole news article about something on Twitter about the, teaching LGBTQ approved like material in schools and things like that. And he tweeted, he's like, he didn't even comment on anything. He said, I just think it makes sense to leave the kids alone. He's a new father, by the way, brand new father. And that's all he tweeted.
What's
and it caused an uproar. People calling him a bigot and all this stuff. Call of Duty removed his bundle, removed him from the game.
They're the bitches, dude.
And they said, we've decided to do this because we want to celebrate Pride with our employees and the people. And I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, so number one, nobody in his statement said anything about the LGBTQ community, right? Nobody, not a single person, right? But they came and attacked him immediately, like without question. Like as a parent, that's like the decision to be able to talk about the, birds and the bees with your children. You have the right. They actually have to send home a permission slip to let your kids be taught in school with that if you don't want to be the one to do that. At least here they do, right? So there's like, as a parent, I feel like you have say in a free country to be able to decide what your children learn and what they don't, especially in a public environment like that. So nonetheless, he got his stuff removed. Well, the other 2 biggest streamers, Tim the Tatman and Dr. Disrespect, who, by the way, is considered
his literal name is Dr. Disrespect. Though.
Right.
Like,
they
are
all
ready to be disrespected.
Dude, I can tell you right now, like, we want to talk about what happened with Bud Light. It's about to happen to Call of Duty. Like, it's going to happen. I'm sorry to say it's going to happen. As many people love that game or play it, they were already hemorrhaging players. Nobody, it's going to get worse.
It so much,
right?
Too.
So I'm going to say to Call of Duty and this cancel culture ice up, this cancel culture situation in the world that we live in, if by the minority of people, by the way, I believe the majority of the world do not agree with the mindset that people have within cancel culture. So I want to say ice up to them.
Hold on, before you go to your next one, let's share this. As I want to put this.
Do it.
This is the best book I've read in about 10 years. I read a lot, or a decent amount.
Yeah.
This is one of the better books that I've read, memorable books that I've read in about a decade. Guns. I mean, I have a couple that I would put out there. It's hard for you to make that list in my life.
Yeah.
This is written by two educational psychologists. They're both identified left, and they're calling out their own. Right, like it's very compelling. It's very authentic. It's called The Coddling of the American Mind. One of these guys, I think it's Jonathan Haidt, runs this thing called FIRE, which is a free speech organization. So liberals were actually, and this is what one great point at the end of the book they talk about, is liberals at one point were known for supporting free speech.
Yeah.
And now they've been the speech police. But the only reason I bring this up, obviously to extend the show, but what they take is they say one of the problems that we're facing with social media, with the way our culture exists, is taking a small thing and making it the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that you don't have to say that something was right. You don't have to, but to say what that person. All right. So how actually is we're not very good at just accepting people who just don't fit our mindset, like whatever we got to say. And so the fact is the threatening part about the guy that just said this is, I think we should let kids. It's not even directed at one group. It's like, I mean, you are taking it and you're extrapolating it to the most infinite negative possibility. And they actually say this is a cultural problem in this book, is that we assume the worst,
right?
Like the very worst of like what the intent was, and then we're threatened to telling you the coddling of the American mind, how good intentions and bad ideas are setting up a generation for failure.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best books I've read in a decade.
I'm going to suggest a movie to
what
you.
You're talking about.
I'm going to suggest a movie to you, just to, and this is just as a, this isn't a movie about Republican or Democrat. It's kind of an eye-opening film. It's called The Plandemic 3. It's The Great Awakening, and you can find it on Rumble. Anybody who wants to go check that out. It goes into a lot of depth and kind of paints the picture of what's happened over the past 3 to 4 years, and how you would be led to believe that everybody else believes the same thing. And in all reality, most people feel exactly like you do. Most humans are not unique in the mindset that they think of. And so when you to feel like you're unique and I don't mean it like in a negative way, but to feel like you're the only person who believes a certain way is absolutely not true. The majority of the country and the world would probably side with,
most people
reality.
Into the middle.
Yeah.
That's another thing these liberal ass people said in this book that was so awesome, is that we actually don't disagree. It's this, we've been hijacked.
Yeah.
Our discussions have been hijacked by these radical minority of opinions, where most people even take the most controversial topic, say like abortion, is that find just a reasonable liberal and a reasonable conservative and just say, lay out your positions. Most people, there's a lot of commonality actually in the positions. It's the extreme people that are like, oh, well, you're going to kill a baby when it's walking out of the womb. And then there's the other group of people that you're like, oh, you won't let someone who was raped by their uncle in 12. They're using the most extremist examples.
Right. And everybody falls in the middle. Yeah, exactly.
We do. Yeah. It's like, if you're a liberal, you actually understand a lot of people who like appreciate life or whatever it is.
Right.
Nobody is calling for us to kill like hogs.
Right.
Anyway, but it's hijacked.
Yeah. So my second ice up is going to the NFL writer, NFL.com writer, Kevin Patra. Okay, Patra, whatever his name is. He wrote an article, and I'm just reading this, and this is from 2 days ago. 9 best new veteran QB wide receiver combos for the 2023 NFL season. Many of these I think we could probably agree on. You got Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson at number 1. You have Lamar and Odell Beckham at number 2. You have Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley at number 3. This one I'm a little bit hesitant on, but Derek Carr and Chris Olave at number 4. Number 5 is Justin Fields and DJ Moore. Number 6 is Jimmy Garoppolo and Devontae Adams, even though Jimmy Garoppolo is a huge question mark. Dak Prescott and Brandon Cooks is an interesting one. It's weird, but I will even accept that. But the number 8 on this list, Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans. Are you?
Mike Evans is awesome, though.
He might be,
He's
but
old.
Baker Mayfield isn't going to be able to find him on the field. Like, he's not going to be able to do anything. Like, you're talking about you could have stopped at 7. You could have just said 7 of the top.
5. We could have just gone with the top 5.
5, right. You could have done that. But you added 8 for Baker and Mac Jones and Juju Smith at number 9.
Oh my God.
Like, you
searching for content.
He had a word a goal. Like, he had to put a goal out there for the number of words he had to have in that article. And that's the only reason he filled it up with those 2 last people. Absolutely hysterical, just an absolute mockery and a joke of a reporter in journalism in the NFL. I can't even fathom a world in which, like, this is. I want to read you what he says. I expect Mayfield to win the starting gig over Greenhorn Kyle Trask in training camp. The former number 1 overall pick remains a gunslinger who can still throw a deep ball when his head isn't spinning under pressure. Like, come on. You used one game last year against the Rams, or when he was on the Rams, as a catalyst to think Baker Mayfield is going to be incredible. Like, the dude came in with no practice. Like, he literally just got lucky on that throw. There is nothing else to say about that throw he had other than that was luck that got them that win in that game. Absolutely hysterical.
Ice up. It shows you the ice up of the news cycle, man. It's just like there's nothing. He's got to write a story. This poor guy's got a job
He's
to do.
fine to write that. He's fine to write that. But you didn't need 8 and 9 on that.
Right. You should have stopped at 5. Right. You're right.
So he would have been better off putting Andy Dalton and Adam Thielen on that list.
Oh,
even though Dalton,
right? That would far. Yes. Well,
even though we know Andy Dalton,
Mike Evans is the reason that carries that. Is I don't want to disrespect Mike Evans, but at some point he's got to age.
This isn't about the best wide receiver. It's about the best wide receiver quarterback combo, right? So nobody would have put DJ Moore in that list if it was if that was Teddy Bridgewater on that list.
All right, this is my ice up. I only got one. I'm not going crazy. Wish I can make it. Maybe I can make it bigger.
Oh gosh. Oh my god.
This is. I saw this. It said biggest regret is on shitty tattoos on Reddit right now. I saw this picture right here. I don't even know what this. I mean, ice up is my first thing. My second thing is like, all right, so for people that are I didn't even think about that in the background, but for people that are listening to this guy got a tattoo and it's like a body below his neck.
Yeah.
But it's like a miniature body. This reminds me of a person from Mad Max or Mad Max Road Fury or something. It's just like, this is a little guy riding on the back of a giant person, but he's got a tattoo of this little person on his own body. So it looks like he is a regular person and a mini person. What is the mini person doing? Are they driving a go-kart?
I can't tell if he's supposed to be operating the body like Men in Black. Maybe.
Looks like he's driving a go-kart.
I don't understand.
But yeah, this is I'm icing up this tattoo, and then imagine if you're a little bit older, right? And you're out of your Mad Max Fury Roads season of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a decent job and you take a beautiful woman on a date. You look good. She looks good. Everybody's feeling the fireworks in this. And you get back.
You have to preempt it.
Like, she would be like, what would be the feeling of being that person that was like,
he's going to be a never nude.
Fuck, man? Why is it a little person?
He's got to be a never nude. Like, in that situation.
What does that mean?
Like, you never heard of never nudes?
No.
It's people that refuse to get nude. like around other people. Like
that's a good
even
point.
you know the never take your shirt off even around your spouse.
You're like,
stuff
I'm
that,
going
right?
in the pool, but I'm wearing a
Right.
t-shirt.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
always gonna have sex with a t-shirt on.
Right, exactly. So that's what this guy's got. He's gonna be wearing a wife beater every time he goes.
Never, dude. It's awesome. This tattoo, bro. And the guy that did it,
he knew.
Ice up to all of this. All right, that's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. My name's Tony Dunn. You can follow me at cat_Chronicles. Like, subscribe, call in at 252-228-5098. Consider being a C3 super fan. And CK, you're a C3 just super dude. Man, I guess get home to your family. What do you want them to know about? Follow you on Twitter, right?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at CodizzleAllen. And you'll see me here on Tuesday nights, occasionally Friday night, and then be on the lookout for the training camp schedule so you guys can plan to make your way out there for training camp for that first week. I'm not planning on being out there for a whole week, but planning on being out there for 2 or 3 days. And we're going to be trying to maybe do some sort of a C3 meetup or something like that. And
Go into Monster Subs and Grub, homie.
Yeah, Monster Subs and Grub, and get some nice, listen, let's support some Panthers fans and some C3 fans. And that's Monster Marinara, who owns that restaurant. He's a supporter of the podcast and a contributor here as well. So absolutely keep that in mind as you start to hear the announcement of those dates coming probably the next week or two.
Thanks, Muscles. Let's get out of here. We'll see you next Tuesday, Friday, and every time we just get the itch to go and talk about the Carolina Panthers.